Chapter 1300. Amidst the darkness, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with light as a pure and holy Buddhic light radiated from him. A heavenly eye seemed to have opened in the center of his brows. In that instant, he saw numerous spears of darkness brimming with destructive might shooting towards him. The trajectory of each spear became exceptionally clear, even though he was still enveloped in darkness. Pointing his finger forward, a terrifying destructive sword slashed out. Tens of thousands of sharp swords converged at a single point, erupting forth with a supreme sword might. The destructive sword of darkness radiated a fearsome sharpness, wanting to slash apart everything. Humph! A clear cold snort rang out. The child of darkness seemed to be filled with disdain towards Qin Wentian's reply. He lifted his hand and waved it, causing the space of darkness to expand once more. Within the boundless darkness energy, numerous Devil Kings' heads appeared, causing people to feel a sense of terror. These Devil Kings opened their mouths and spat out devil light, transforming into spears of darkness that pierced through space. The tips of these spears exuded a fearsome sharpness, even stronger compared to the earlier attack. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared over. When he sensed this powerful attack, countless ancient characters manifested around him, transforming into a suppression art that frenziedly blasted towards the space. Terrifying attacks collided against each other. Qin Wentian continued forward. His eyes seemed to be able to penetrate through the darkness, landing on the child of darkness. The child of darkness narrowed his eyes as a cold smile appeared on his face. This man actually cultivated a Buddhist art. Could he see through his darkness? But even so, what use would it be? The Devil King's heads of darkness gathered together, landing behind the child of darkness, as though they were his astral souls. He lifted his hand and stretched it out towards Qin Wentian. In that instant, a terrifying vortex of darkness abruptly appeared within his domain of darkness, resembling a terrifying black hole of destruction. The space around him spun as he was sucked into it. Qin Wentian's robes fluttered as he took a step forward. He didn't take the initiative to do so, but rather, an incomparably terrifying devouring force pushed him forward, causing him to be unable to stand stably. Boom! Releasing a terrifying aura, Qin Wentian took another step forward involuntarily, causing the ground to tremble. The dark whirlpool in front of him was like a real destructive devil's cave. The darkness could devour everything and destroy everything in the world. Could it be that the child of darkness really wants to kill him? This doesn't conform to the rules of the Devil Mountain. However, if the child of darkness acted, even the Judiciary Devil Hall would close one eye, right? In any case, the one he killed is an immortal realm cultivator, Wuxia. An expert at the side had a look of interest on his face as he quietly stared at Wuxia's death. Even if the people from the immortal realms ascended the Devil Mountain, it was fine if they casually entered any of the Devil Halls. But to think that they actually wanted to enter the sacred ground of their Devil Mountain? The child of darkness twirled his palm, and an even more terrifying devouring storm appeared. The black hole grew more and more terrifying, and the violent winds wreaked havoc as the black hole continued to expand. This destructive black hole wasn't static, and it could even grow stronger. Within the black vortex, pairs of terrifying Demon King heads appeared, appearing extremely demonic and terrifying. They all opened their mouths to devour everything, forming this destructive storm. Rumble! An extremely terrifying law energy gushed forth from Qin Wentian. Both of his feet were rooted firmly on the ground. However, when he saw the expanding whirlpool, he knew that this was far from enough. Numerous ancient characters of destruction floated before him. Qin Wentian waved his hands and pointed forward. Instantly, countless ancient characters of destruction gushed into the vortex of darkness, causing thunderous rumbling sounds to echo out. However, the vortex of darkness didn't stop expanding. It directly devoured all the ancient characters of destruction as well. This energy is actually extremely similar to the innate technique of the treasured cauldron. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. It was just that the innate technique of the child of darkness seemed to be activated by the energy of darkness, while his innate technique was unleashed by the 8 demonic treasured arts. Die. The eyes of the child of darkness were cold. This person's strength wasn't bad, to be able to last until now under such an attack. Terrifying dark energy gushed out from his body, fusing with the devouring power. The dark spatial domain roared, and countless tiny vortexes appeared in the darkness, simultaneously devouring towards Qin Wentian's body. Moreover, these vortexes were also expanding, terrifying to the extreme. Rumble. A terrifying demonic aura swept out from Qin Wentian's body. Behind him, the shadow of a demon god seemed to have appeared. A clash between demons and demons. Who would come out on top? Qin Wentian roared, gathering boundless energy and blasted forward. At this moment, numerous demon gods appeared, transforming into incomparably terrifying destructive vortexes, sweeping towards the black hole in front. A shocking destructive energy collided, and two similar energies collided, crazily devouring each other. The dark space unceasingly exploded as destructive storms ravaged the surroundings. The countenances of the experts in the surroundings all changed. How could there be such a terrifying commotion? An extremely cold light flashed in the eyes of the Child of Darkness. To think that Qin Wentian actually possessed an innate technique that could contend against his ultimate art of the Darkness Devil Hall. Not only that, it was a similar innate technique. How could this be possible? He stepped out, advancing forward step by step. With every step he took, the darkness grew stronger. Qin Wentian condensed an ancient halberd in his hand as he similarly stabbed out. Another vortex manifested as the attacks of the two of them clashed against each other. Even space itself seemed on the verge of collapse. The law domain of darkness was also being shattered. Kill! The Child of Darkness roared. The destructive spears seemed to be boundless. Qin Wentian's eyes turned cold. In an instant, countless gigantic swords descended from the sky, enveloping the body of the Child of Darkness as they slashed out in all directions. The long spears were all crushed. Qin Wentian stabbed out with his finger as he roared in rage. Suppress! As the sound of his voice faded, the black-colored gigantic sword of destruction pierced down with a heaven-shaking might. The Child of Darkness lifted his head and roared. Devilish might towered up into the sky as numerous devilish phantoms attacked him, yet they were all directly destroyed. However, when the gigantic sword that could suppress everything landed on him, the body of the Child of Darkness actually vanished, as though he had melded into the darkness. Qin Wentian took a step forward as the ancient halberd in his hand pierced out. It was akin to a heavenly rock that would slaughter everything in its path, tearing through the air in a certain direction. It was also akin to an incomparably gigantic palm imprint of divinity. With a thunderous boom, a silhouette appeared in the darkness and was directly flung through the air, coughing out fresh blood. It was none other than the Child of Darkness that had been hiding in the darkness. Qin Wentian seemed to have opened his heavenly eyes, able to see through all illusions. Stepping out, he was as fast as lightning, akin to a great rock as he stabbed out with his ancient halberd once again. Impudent! A roar of rage rang out. After that, Qin Wentian saw a gigantic palm imprint of darkness blotting out the sky. This palm imprint could crush the heavens and earth, unblockable. Qin Wentian's ancient halberd blasted out explosively, yet it was directly smashed into smithereens. The tyrannical palm imprint directly blasted him through the air. The force of the attack even penetrated into his body, shattering his bones. Poochie! Qin Wentian coughed out a mouthful of blood. When his feet landed on the ground, he staggered backward unstably. He stared ahead, only to see a terrifying might enveloping him. A powerful Devil King exuded towering law energy. His law domain could directly manifest a corporeal body. You actually want to kill the Child of Darkness of the Darkness Devil Hall? Kill him! That Devil King icily roared, lifting his palm imprint, preparing to kill Qin Wentian on the spot. Qin Wentian's expression kept changing, his gaze was extremely cold. At this moment, an expert appeared beside Qin Wentian. He pressed his palms together as an ancient devil manifested, blocking Qin Wentian's path. With a thunderous boom, sand and dust flew everywhere as a gust of wind ravaged the area. How dare you! That Devil King from the Darkness Devil Hall roared. Turning your shame into anger after losing, you want to kill someone? Could it be that you think this will be able to wash away the humiliation of the Child of Darkness being defeated? The Devil King from the myriad ancient Devil Hall coldly spoke. The person who lost to Qin Wentian earlier wasn't an ordinary disciple of the Devil Hall, but was the Child of Darkness. Ordinary disciples could be defeated, but if the Child of Darkness lost to Qin Wentian, the implications would be extremely profound. Hence, the Devil King protector of the Child of Darkness wanted to kill Qin Wentian in a hurry. The myriad ancient Devil Hall dares to interfere in the matters of my Darkness Devil Hall. That Devil King domineeringly stepped out, speaking in an overbearing manner. The Darkness Devil Hall has lost their bearing. Only to see several experts from the myriad ancient Devil Hall stepping out. In addition, you guys can't represent the Darkness Devil Hall. Both sides clashed, actually showing signs of a stalemate. At this moment, a powerful aura gushed forth from afar, causing the gazes of everyone to freeze. Seems like the commotion here has attracted the attention of the Judiciary Devil Hall. The experts from the Judiciary Devil Hall swiftly arrived. The person in the lead had a cold expression on his face. He glanced at the surroundings before his gaze landed on the Child of Darkness and Qin Wentian. People from the Darkness Devil Hall and Myriad Ancient Devil Hall are having a conflict in front of the Saint Devil Hall. Return immediately. Child of Darkness, you are not allowed to enter the Saint Devil Hall for a year. That expert from the Judiciary Devil Hall coldly spoke. After that, he turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian. Wuxia of the Immortal Realms has nothing in his eyes, causing trouble outside the sacred ground of our Devil Mountain, and even wanting to kill the Child of Darkness of the Darkness Devil Hall. He should be judged. The eyes of the experts from the Darkness Devil Hall gleamed with coldness. Although the punishment for the Child of Darkness was a little heavy, it was true that he was no longer suitable to come to the Saint Devil Hall after this defeat. In addition, the Judiciary Devil Hall decided to punish Qin Wentian. After all, he was still someone from the Devil Mountain. They should know what to do. This judgment is unfair. The expert from the Myriad Ancient Devil Hall spoke. You dare to question the judgment. That expert's eyes were extremely cold, staring at the expert from the Myriad Ancient Devil Hall. The judgment of the Devil Mountain should be personally judged by the Judiciary Priest. The expert from the Myriad Ancient Devil Hall insisted. My decision is equivalent to the judgment of the Judiciary Priest. The countenance of the expert from the Judiciary Devil Hall was extremely cold. Qin Wentian stood there and coldly laughed. Even for a place like the Devil Mountain, there was no way he wouldn't be biased. Who asked him to be from the Immortal Realms? Chapter 1301. The Devil Mountain was the sacred ground of the myriad Devil Islands. With regards to Wuxia who came from the Immortal Realms, they would naturally feel a sense of resistance. The countenance of the Child of Darkness was extremely unsightly to behold. As one of the 9 children of darkness in the Devil Foundation realm of the Darkness Devil Hall, he would be one of the future successors of the Darkness King. But today, outside the sacred ground, he actually lost to an Immortal Realm cultivator. He knew what sort of influence this would bring to him. His cold eyes stared at Qin Wentian, wanting nothing more than to devour him with darkness. Even if the Judiciary Devil Hall had already given their verdict, there were some things that could no longer be changed. Our myriad ancient Devil Hall naturally wouldn't question the judgment. However, the judgment this time is truly unfair. We want to see the Judiciary Devil Hall personally. An expert from the myriad ancient Devil Hall coldly spoke. The Devil Mountain needed rules to exist, and the Judiciary Devil Hall was the place where the myriad Devil Sovereign was in charge of the rules. Once a conflict erupted, the Judiciary Devil Hall would appear, and their words would represent the judgment. Even the Devil Halls at the peak of the Devil Mountain had to obey the will of the myriad Devil Sovereign. During the judgment, their will was the will of the myriad Devil Sovereign. Fine. That expert from the Judiciary Devil Hall coldly glanced at the people from the myriad ancient Devil Hall. From afar, another group of people from the Judiciary Devil Hall was rushing over. A conflict erupted in the sacred ground, causing 2 Judiciary Devil Hall priests to rush here at the same time. Very good. That expert from the Judiciary Devil Hall coldly stared at the people from the myriad ancient Devil Hall. It has been a very long time since someone dared to cause a conflict here. That expert from the myriad ancient Devil Hall coldly snorted. Speaking of which, This conflict erupted because of the arrogance of the Child of Darkness. He felt that since Qin Wentian was a Wuxia from the immortal realms, he should be killed directly. He also felt that he would be able to kill Qin Wentian easily. But he didn't expect that he would be defeated, causing such a huge commotion. There were 7 priests in the Judiciary Devil Hall. Each of them had great authority, and their cultivation bases were all different. However, all of them were successors of the Judiciary Devil Hall, and had hopes of wielding the scepter in the future. These 2 priests who just arrived were extremely conspicuous in the crowd. They were clad in long robes and were clad in blood-colored armor, exuding an incomparably imposing aura. Moreover, one of them was a male priest while the other was a female priest. The priestess was wearing the priestess uniform of the Judgment Priestess, which accentuated her slender figure. Her long hair draped over her shoulders, but the blood-red laurel crown on her head made people not dare to have any blasphemous thoughts towards her. The priestess of the Judiciary Palace was none other than the priestess Qin Wentian met before in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Also, she had once helped Qingcheng. Her face was still covered by a pointy mask, blocking all probing. Only her beautiful eyes shone with magnificence. "Greetings, High Priest." Those experts from the Judiciary Devil Hall bowed. The male priest walked out. His countenance was filled with coldness. He swept his gaze over the crowd as he asked, "Why are you causing trouble outside the sacred ground?" The Child of Darkness had a conflict with Wuxia from the Immortal Realms. The Child of Darkness was defeated and Wuxia from the Immortal Realms wanted to kill him. However, he was obstructed and injured by someone from the Darkness Devil Hall. This subordinate rules that the Child of Darkness as well as the experts from the Darkness Devil Hall are forbidden from entering the sacred ground for a year. This immortal Wuxia from the Immortal Realms, although he ascended the Devil Mountain, he violated the rules of our Devil Mountain and should be executed. That person bowed as he spoke. "Since this is the case, we will follow your rules. Is there anyone who disagrees?" The voice of the priest was emotionless, as though he had already made a decision. The expressions of the experts from the myriad ancient Devil Hall turned extremely ugly. Although Qin Wentian was only a good friend of Wuxia and had nothing to do with them, the founder of the myriad ancient Devil Hall did indeed come from the immortal realms. Hence, they weren't that stubborn when it came to immortals and devils. They felt that since they ascended the Devil Mountain, they should treat everyone equally. It's the Child of Darkness who said he wanted to kill this immortal expert from the immortal realms. This was why the immortal realms retaliated. If you want to execute him, shouldn't you punish him as well? The expert from the myriad ancient Devil Hall continued. When did the people of the myriad ancient Devil Hall have the authority to judge? That young man glanced at the expert from the myriad ancient Devil Hall as he coldly asked. Although the myriad ancient Devil Hall doesn't have the authority to judge, they have the responsibility to explain the course of events so that the Judiciary Devil Hall can make a better judgment. At this moment, just when everyone thought that the dust had settled, a different voice rang out. This voice was cold, as though there were no emotions within. Everyone inclined their heads and glanced over. The person who spoke was actually the priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall. Their eyes couldn't help but to flash. Could it be that the 2 priestesses had different opinions? "Tell us everything that happened." The priestess spoke. "Right." The expert from the myriad ancient Devil Hall spoke. He pointed to Qin Wentian. "This man is Wuxia from the immortal realms. However, since he ascended the Devil Mountain, it means that he has obtained the approval of the myriad Devil Sovereign. Along the way, he wanted to enter the Saint Devil Hall to take a look, but was obstructed by the Child of Darkness. This Wuxia from the immortal realms was actually defeated in the end. In a fit of anger, this immortal realms Wuxia acted extremely heavily. As for whether he had killing intent or not, I temporarily don't know. However, the experts from the Judiciary Devil Hall obstructed him, and directly injured Wuxia, wanting to kill him but was stopped by me. After that, the experts from the Judiciary Devil Hall arrived. This is the complete story." "Is that so?" The priestess turned her gaze to the crowd. Outside the Saint Devil Hall, under the radiance of the myriad Devil Sovereign, if anyone dares to lie before the Judiciary Devil Hall, they shall bear the consequences. No one responded. It was obvious that this was the gist of what had happened. Do you think we should overturn the earlier judgment? The priestess stared at the priest as she asked. Why should we overturn it? The Darkness Devil Hall is one of the devil halls that exists together with the Saint Devil Hall. Even if the Child of Darkness obstructed Wuxia from entering the Saint Devil Hall, it wouldn't be overboard. That priest stared at the priestess as he spoke. Clearly, it was impossible for him to overturn the judgment he made. As a priest of the Judiciary Devil Hall, we have to follow the will of the myriad devil sovereign. We have to forget everything else. Even with the identity of the Child of Darkness, it wouldn't affect the fairness of the judgment. This is the foundation of the Judiciary Devil Hall. Have you forgotten? The priestess coldly spoke, causing the expression of that priest to stiffen. He naturally understood the will of the Judiciary Devil Hall. However, one was the Child of the Darkness Devil Hall, while the other was the Immortal Realms Wuxia. When they made their judgment, how could they not take everything into consideration? It was just that he didn't expect that the priestess' opinion was completely different from his. What do you think the judgment should be? The priest asked. The Child of Darkness relied on his identity and went against the will of the myriad devil sovereign. His qualifications to enter the Saint Devil Hall will be revoked, and he will never be able to step half a step into the Saint Devil Hall. This Immortal Realms Wuxia passively resisted and is innocent. The Darkness Devil Hall acted when the Child of Darkness was defeated, wanting to kill Wuxia, shielding his fellow sect members and going against the will of the myriad devil sovereign. The priestess' cold voice rang out, causing everyone to be shocked. Even the experts from the myriad ancient devil hall couldn't help but feel their hearts trembling as they stared at the priestess. Although such a judgment could be considered as iron-blooded justice, the person she wanted to judge was an expert from the Darkness Devil Hall, as well as the Child of Darkness. Wasn't this a little too bold? If Qin Wentian was a cultivator of the Devil Mountain with a status equal to the Child of Darkness, such a judgment might have appeared. But he was Wuxia from the Immortal Realms. The priestess actually made such a judgment. The countenances of the Darkness Devil Hall and the Child of Darkness changed, becoming extremely cold. As one of the three supreme devil halls, the status of the Darkness Devil Hall was equal to the Judiciary Devil Hall. The Judiciary Priestess also had the same status as the Child of Darkness. However, at this moment, this priestess actually dared to make such a judgment. You are truly impudent. The expression of the Child of Darkness was incomparably cold. The Judiciary Devil Hall was in charge of judgment. If the judgment was to take effect, he would be stripped of his chance to enter the Saint Devil Hall. In addition to his earlier defeat, his position as the Child of Darkness was already destined to be stripped away. As the priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall, I naturally have to follow the will of the myriad devil sovereign. When it comes to judgment, I won't shirk my responsibility. The priestess icily spoke. She stared at the priest as she spoke. If you have any objections to my judgment, we can return to the Judiciary Devil Hall to invite the Grand Priest. The eyes of the young man flashed. The status of the Grand Priest was transcendent. It was a position after the Judiciary Devil Hall was promoted. Only priests who have stepped into the Devil Emperor realm would have the qualifications to be promoted to the Grand Priest, and they would have a chance to sit on the Judiciary throne. Since you insist on your judgment, I will voluntarily withdraw. You can make the final decision here. The eyes of the priest flickered as he retreated. His subordinates followed behind him. The eyes of everyone flashed. They instantly understood how sinister this man was. Even in a place like the Judiciary Devil Hall, there would still be competition. There were a total of 7 judiciary priests, but there were only 3 grand priests. Only one person could sit on the judiciary throne. This priest clearly wanted the priestess to offend the Darkness Devil Hall. Since this is the case, Judiciary, bring the Child of Darkness away and send him back to the Darkness Devil Hall. As for the Devil King who acted, he will have his cultivation crippled. The priestess coldly spoke. Her voice was so resolute that it could sever iron, causing the hearts of everyone here to tremble. You dare? The Child of Darkness roared in rage. That Devil King similarly erupted forth with terrifying devil might. As devil cultivators of the Devil Mountain, You guys should understand the consequences of disobeying the judgment. The priestess waved her hand as the experts behind her stepped out. The child of darkness naturally didn't want to obey, and wanted to resist. However, with a devil king acting, how could he resist? In just an instant he was directly captured. That devil king was also enraged. 3 devil kings from the judiciary hall impolitely acted against him. When a judgment scepter pierced into his body, that devil king screamed in agony, his voice shaking the heavens and earth, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. The judiciary devil hall was as expected of the coldest and coldest devil hall. In their eyes, there was only judgment. Bai Qing, you will regret it if you dare to act against my darkness devil hall. The child of darkness roared in rage. Chapter 1302. Bai Qing. The voice of the child of darkness was like thunder from a clear sky, ringing out in Qin Wentian's ears. His eyes abruptly turned in the direction of the judiciary priestess, as great waves of shock rose up in his heart. How could he forget this name? How familiar was this name? Although Qin Wentian had already become a peak-level genius of the immortal realms, he would never be able to forget the purest days of his youth. How could he forget the young girl who liked to stick close to him, calling him Wentian Gidge? Even after the Bai clan betrayed him and his fiancée became a reality, that pure and innocent young girl still stood by his side. Even after she became a devil cultivator, she still stood by his side. The judiciary priestess is that last Bai Qing? Qin Wentian's heart trembled. He walked towards the priestess, forgetting where he was, and what kind of situation he was facing now. Given Qin Wentian's current cultivation base, he should have sufficient rationality to control the fluctuations in his heart. However, Bai Qing was simply too important to him. He had once tried to search for her in the particle world, but to no avail. Now that he suddenly received news of her and she was standing right in front of him, how could he not be agitated? Even his rationality was tossed to the back of his mind. The judiciary priestess also stared at Qin Wentian. Her cold eyes flashed with a hint of panic, and this panic was coincidentally captured by Qin Wentian. Little lass Bai, is it really you? Qin Wentian's heart trembled as he called out. As the sound of his voice faded, the entire space turned silent again. Initially, everyone's attention was on the child of darkness. But at this moment, their gazes abruptly shifted to the judiciary priestess, as well as Qin Wentian, who seemed to have lost control of his emotions. At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with heat, as though he was extremely agitated. Little lass Bai? On the Devil Mountain, only the Grand Priest of the Judiciary Devil Hall had the qualifications to refer to the Judiciary Priestess as Little Lass Bai. An Immortal Realm expert, Wuxia, actually referred to the Judiciary Priestess as Little Lass Bai? They seemed to know each other. The eyes of the crowd flickered. The panic in Bai Qing's eyes grew even more intense. Her beautiful eyes flickered, as though she wanted to evade. The Judgment Priestess is indeed impartial. At this moment, Wuxia, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. His gaze was incomparably cold. Back then in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, the priestess of the Judiciary Priestess had caused him to lose face to the extreme, and even caused the mission to fail. Now he finally knew the reason why she acted. Back then in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, you brought people from the Judiciary Devil Hall to deal with me who is also on the Devil Mountain. How could it be because of the judgment? To think that it was actually because you have a secret relationship with this man. Right now, on the Devil Mountain, you are reprimanding another priest for being biased while pretending to be impartial. Who would have thought that? Wuxia coldly laughed as he suddenly fell silent. The countenances of everyone here all changed. The child of darkness laughed uproariously. What a good judiciary priestess. So this is the case. For the sake of a secret relationship, you acted against the Darkness Devil Hall, crippling the cultivation base of a devil king from my hall, and even chasing me away. Now the one who should be judged is you. The people around the priestess all frowned as they berated. Don't talk nonsense. The priestess has always been cultivating in the Judiciary Devil Hall. How could there be a secret relationship? As the priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall, she was not allowed to have any secret relationships. If not, her position as the priestess would have come to an end. As a judge, she had to abide by the will of the myriad devil sovereign. She mustn't allow any emotions to affect her judgment. The child of darkness used the word secret relationship to be extremely vicious. You already referred to her as Little Lass Bai Qing. In addition to what Wuxia said, Bai Qing also acted to help this man in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Is there a need to be more obvious? The child of darkness reacted extremely quickly, coldly rebuking. Priestess. The gazes of those experts landed on the priestess. At this moment, the priestess' beautiful eyes were filled with emotions. She turned her head back and saw the face of anticipation on Qin Wentian's face. The priestess stretched her hand out, placing it before her mask. After that, she slowly pulled it off, revealing a breathtaking countenance, cold and noble. This was especially so when coupled with her attire as a priestess and the blood-colored crown on her head. She appeared incomparably noble, like the daughter of a devil god. However, when he saw this countenance, Qin Wentian's heart trembled even more violently. After that, a look of wild joy appeared in his eyes. Although the countenance before him had changed due to the passage of time, the pure and innocent countenance of the past had become noble and cold, adding a few hints of breathtaking beauty to it. But no matter how much time flowed, she was still her. In Qin Wentian's eyes, he could still see that radiant and pure countenance of the past. But at this moment, the cold and lofty face in front of him suddenly changed. A radiant smile appeared on his face. In that instant, the scene in front of him overlapped with the scene in his memories. Qin Wentian also smiled. His smile was exceptionally radiant. Wentian Gij. A melodious voice rang out from the priestess. Time seemed to have returned to the past, passing through time. The woman before him was no longer the cold and noble priestess, but the young girl who liked to stick by his side, the innocent and beautiful Little Lass Bai Qing. As the sound of her voice faded, the countenances of the devil cultivators beside Bai Qing drastically changed. The eyes of the priest flashed with a smile. The eyes of the child of darkness and Wuxia flashed with coldness. Yulongsheng too was astonished. The experts from the myriad ancient devil hall were all shocked. As for the monk Bujia, he blinked his eyes. This fellow could even meet a lover on the Devil Mountain? Wasn't this too awesome? As one of the 3 supreme halls that protected the Saint Devil Hall, the priestess of the Judiciary Hall actually referred to Qin Wentian as Wentian Gij. From this, one could very well imagine the commotion caused by this on the Devil Mountain. Qin Wentian smiled. Bai Qing was still his Little Lass Bai Qing. She hadn't changed at all. He didn't expect that back then in the Sacred Academy, the one who silently protected him, saving Little Rascal and Qingsheng, as well as blocking Huang Shatian for him, was actually Bai Qing. However, Qin Wentian was truly very happy. He always thought that something might have happened to Bai Qing, and that he would never be able to see her again. But now, Bai Qing actually appeared in front of him alive and well. How could he not be happy? Judiciary priestess, very good. The cold voice of the child of darkness rang out once more. However, this didn't pull Qin Wentian back from the joy of seeing Bai Qing. He smiled and walked forward, staring at Bai Qing. Little Lass Bai Qing, why did you intentionally avoid me when we were in the Tiandao Sacred Academy? Wentian Gij. Bai Qing lowered her head, like a little girl who had done something wrong. She didn't know how to explain. It's fine. Seeing that you are safe and sound, your Wentian Gij is already very satisfied. Qin Wentian smiled and walked forward. He stretched out his hand and rubbed Bai Qing's head, exuding a doting look. This scene caused everyone in the surroundings to be stunned, but Bai Qing herself didn't seem to have any objections. She merely inclined her head and pretended to be angry as she glared at Qin Wentian. After that, a radiant smile appeared on her face. So it turned out that reuniting with Wentian Gij could be so happy. After so many years, Wentian Gij still remembered her, and was still so intimate with her. Since this was the case, she was already very satisfied. From afar, more and more experts rushed over. What happened? An expert from the Darkness Devil Hall coldly asked. A devil king of their Darkness Hall was actually punished by the Judiciary Priestess. The Child of Darkness was also captured. For personal reasons, the judiciary priestess protected Wuxia from the immortal realms, and crippled a devil king of my darkness hall, wanting me to never return to the Saint Devil Hall ever again. The child of darkness coldly spoke. Right now, he only wanted to blow up this matter to cover up his failure today. When all the spearheads were pointed at Bai Qing, he would have a chance to retreat unscathed. Bai Qing, should you voluntarily relinquish your position as the judiciary priestess? At this moment, even the priest stared at Bai Qing as he coldly spoke. How could he miss out on such an opportunity? Qin Wentian's expression changed. He didn't understand the judiciary devil hall. Before this, he was too agitated when he heard Bai Qing's name, and acknowledged her on the spot. Bai Qing also didn't hide anything. But from the looks of things now, his rash actions had caused Bai Qing to fall into an extremely unfavorable situation. Although I've long been acquainted with Wentian Gige, the judgment I made today was done in an open and above-board manner. What do you mean by that? You want me to relinquish my position as the priestess of the judiciary hall? Bai Qing's countenance instantly turned cold as she stared at the priest. In the blink of an eye, Bai Qing seemed to have changed into another person, transforming back into the cold and noble priestess of the judiciary devil hall. Her beautiful eyes turned to the child of darkness as she spoke. You disobeyed the will of the myriad devil sovereign, obstructing those who ascended the devil mountain from entering the Saint Devil Hall, and even tried to kill them. What's sad is that you were actually defeated. It's fine if you were defeated, but as the child of darkness, you actually don't know any shame, allowing the devil protector to act on your behalf, wanting to kill your opponent. I banished you from the Saint Devil Hall, not allowing you to enter the Saint Devil Hall ever again. What's wrong with this judgment? Where did you get the courage to spout nonsense here? The countenance of the child of darkness drastically changed. This Bai Qing was too ruthless. Most probably, you aren't merely acquainted with this person, right? To be so intimate with him, he should be your lover, right? As a priestess of the judiciary devil hall, you still dare to say that your judgment is fair? Qin Wentian coldly stared at the child of darkness when he heard the words of the child of darkness. I followed the will of the myriad devil sovereign all the way up the devil mountain, filled with respect and veneration for him. However, I was obstructed and made things difficult for me. This is the magnanimity of the Devil Mountain. Where is the respect and veneration the people of the Devil Mountain have for the myriad devil sovereign? As for you, you were incomparably arrogant earlier, but you are only able to stand here because you relied on the devil protector. If not, you would already be a dead man. Yet you still dared to spout nonsense, slandering others to save yourself. How lamentable. The Darkness Devil Hall is one of the original 4 devil halls. It's truly a shame to have a child of darkness like you. Wu, from today onwards, you are no longer the child of darkness of the Darkness Devil Hall. At this moment, a voice drifted over from afar. It was incomparably calm, yet it felt like this was the judgment of the child of darkness. Chapter 1303. As the sound of her voice faded, the countenance of the child of darkness instantly turned pale. He inclined his head and saw a group of figures flying over. The person in the lead seemed to be shrouded in darkness. Although he was clearly in front of him, his features couldn't be seen clearly. This figure shrouded in darkness gave off an extremely dangerous feeling. His gaze landed on Bai Qing as he spoke, who has already been stripped of his position as a child of darkness. He will never be able to enter the Saint Devil Hall again. In addition, the Devil King of my Darkness Hall has already accepted his punishment. In that case, the judgment you have given is already completed. Many thanks for Senior's understanding. The judiciary priestess spoke. However, even if your judgment is fair, as a priestess of the judiciary devil hall, you clearly are acquainted with this person, yet you didn't avoid arousing suspicion, and made your judgment on the spot. In addition, you didn't publicize the truth. How should the judiciary devil hall judge you? The figure in the darkness asked. Qin Wentian's expression changed. The Darkness Devil Hall was in existence on the same level as the Judiciary Devil Hall. They would naturally be unhappy if Bai Qing made her judgment. Even if they were major characters, they would still stand out. This was extremely disadvantageous to Bai Qing, and the acknowledgement of him, and Bai Qing actually became a reason for the other party to target Bai Qing. This caused Qin Wentian to silently curse himself. Why was he so impulsive earlier? He shouldn't have acknowledged Bai Qing. At this moment, Qin Wentian calmed down a lot. But in that situation earlier, how could he still think so much? Also for his sake, Bai Qing didn't lie and acknowledged him. If not, given Bai Qing's status in the Devil Mountain, she could directly deny it. But clearly, Bai Qing didn't have the heart to do so. Since the Devil Mountain has no place for Wuxia, I can leave the mountain now. Senior, as an expert of the Darkness Devil Hall, why must you make things difficult for a junior? Although I'm acquainted with Bai Qing, the judgment she made was in accordance with the will of the myriad Devil Sovereign. What wrong did she do? Qin Wentian spoke. By saying that you want to leave the Devil Mountain now, are you trying to show that my Devil Mountain Devil Hall doesn't have the magnanimity to tolerate you? That dark figure stared at Qin Wentian. Wu, he was arrogant and conceited, yet he was defeated by you. This is his fault. Since you ascended the Devil Mountain, you can naturally enter the Saint Devil Hall. My Darkness Devil Hall won't make things difficult for you because of this. You can enter the Saint Devil Hall anytime you want. This seat didn't say that there was a problem with Bai Qing's judgment. It's just that she made the judgment under the circumstances where you are acquainted with her. Bai Qing, you will be locked up in the Blood Devil Cliff for 3 years. Within these 3 years you are not allowed to exit. From afar, an imposing voice drifted over. Bai Qing's eyes flickered as she stared in that direction, nodding her head. Yes, Grand Priest. There wasn't much fluctuation in her beautiful eyes, as if the imprisonment of the Blood Demon Cliff wasn't a big deal to her. However, the expressions of the Demon King protectors changed. They knew very well what kind of place the Blood Demon Cliff was. Since the High Priest has made his decision, this matter shall end here. Wu, go back. The dark figure spoke. After that, his silhouette flickered as he melded into the darkness, directly vanishing from sight. Many people felt shock in their hearts. They didn't expect that this matter would actually involve the Darkness Devil Lord and the Grand Priest. The people in the surroundings cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian, feeling somewhat taken aback. A Wuxia from the Immortal Realms actually had such a deep relationship with the Judiciary Priestess. From their expressions, they seemed to be extremely close. The Child of Darkness left with the people of the Darkness Devil Hall. Bai Qing's beautiful eyes landed on Qin Wentian as she spoke in a gentle voice. Wentian Gij, I didn't expect you to come to the Devil Mountain. This Saint Devil Hall is the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain, a place formed from the will of the myriad Devil Sovereign. After you enter, you have to comprehend it well. Bai Qing won't have a chance to meet with Wentian Gij. Little ass Bai, what sort of place is the Blood Devil Cliff? Qin Wentian's countenance changed as he asked. The Blood Devil Cliff is just an ordinary place for closed-door seclusion. Wentian Gij, you don't have to worry about me. Bai Qing still had a gentle smile on her face. Wentian Gij, I'm leaving first. You have to be careful. After speaking, Bai Qing flew towards the direction of the Judiciary Devil Hall. The person who came with her coldly glanced at Qin Wentian, as though he was very unhappy with Qin Wentian. Little lass Bai Qing, I will stay on the Devil Mountain for 3 years. Qin Wentian stared at Bai Qing as he spoke. Bai Qing's body trembled slightly. Her silhouette flickered as she continued on her way. Her beautiful eyes flickered with gentleness. When she saw Qin Wentian, wasn't she also filled with joy in her heart? It was just that she had been suppressing her emotions until Qin Wentian heard the Child of Darkness calling out her name. Qin Wentian instantly lost control. Actually, she didn't need to acknowledge Qin Wentian, but at that time, her emotions also won over her rationality. She really wanted to let Qin Wentian Gij see her. As her silhouette gradually left, Bai Qing walked towards the Judiciary Devil Hall step by step. Her countenance suddenly turned cold as a cold intent radiated from her. She once again transformed into the dignified and noble priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall, not allowing anyone to profane her. Qin Wentian stared at Bai Qing's disappearing back view. His gaze then turned to the expert from the myriad ancient Devil Hall as he asked, Senior, what sort of place is the Blood Devil Cliff? Although Bai Qing spoke in a relaxed manner, Qin Wentian wouldn't be so naive to believe her words. Even if it was an extremely dangerous place, she wouldn't tell him because she was afraid that he would be worried. And as expected, the expression of that expert from the myriad ancient devil hall changed. He then spoke in a light voice. The Blood Devil Cliff is an extremely dangerous place. The priestess treats you very well. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. As expected, as the priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall, Bai Qing gave the order, causing a Devil King from the Darkness Hall to have his cultivation base crippled, and a Child of Darkness crippled. Even a supreme expert from the Darkness Hall personally came here to punish her. If the Grand Priestess's punishment for Bai Qing was too light, how would that expert from the Darkness Hall let this matter rest? Time flowed by. In the blink of an eye, 100 years had passed. He and Bai Qing met again in the sacred ground of the myriad Devil Islands. Everything was the same as before, with no barriers between them at all. Bai Qing was still the pure and innocent young lady who liked to follow behind him. It was like nothing had changed at all. Naturally, it was only towards him. Many thanks, Senior. Qin Wentian smiled. No matter what, he finally got news of Bai Qing and knew that she was doing well. Turning about, Qin Wentian walked towards the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain, the Saint Devil Hall. This Devil Hall was established by the myriad Devil Sovereign, the supreme sacred ground of the Devil Mountain. The Child of Darkness didn't allow him to enter, but before Bai Qing left, she intentionally reminded him to comprehend the Saint Devil Hall properly. The first-generation leader of the myriad ancient Devil Hall only established the myriad ancient Devil Hall after he entered the Saint Devil Hall. In that case, he definitely had to take a good look at this Devil Hall. Wuxia, Yulong Shengtu and the others stared at the back view of Qin Wentian. This fellow was truly lucky. Even the Darkness Devil Sovereign appeared, and the priestess of the Judiciary Devil Sovereign bore the wrath of the Devil Sovereign for him. Yet he was still safe and sound. Qin Wentian, you are actually able to enter the Saint Devil Hall to cultivate with such a peace of mind? Back then, if it wasn't for the Judiciary Priestess, your demonic beasts would have long been devoured by me, and your woman would have encountered danger as well. Also for you, if it wasn't for the priestess constantly sending people to restrict Huang Shatian, you and your people would have long since died in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Wuxia's voice rang out, as though he wanted to stir up the devil in Qin Wentian's heart. However, Qin Wentian continued walking forward, ignoring Wuxia. Earlier, the Judiciary Priestess suffered the punishment of the Grand Priest for your sake. The Blood Devil Cliff is a place of death with 9 out of 10 chances of survival. After 3 years of confinement, I'm afraid you won't be able to see her again. Given your personality, shouldn't you be heading to the Judiciary Devil Hall to ask for her? Wuxia continued to tempt him. Qin Wentian knew of Wuxia's methods. He knew that Wuxia was intentionally trying to shake his heart. This Wuxia had always been unscrupulous in order to achieve his goals. Don't listen to his nonsense. Although the Blood Devil Cliff is dangerous, the Judiciary Priestess naturally has the strength to protect herself. An expert from the myriad ancient Devil Hall spoke. They didn't wish for Qin Wentian's heart to be shaken when he entered the Saint Devil Hall. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. He implicated Bai Qing for 2 reasons. Firstly, he wasn't clear about the rules of the Devil Mountain. Secondly, he was too agitated after hearing the news of Bai Qing, causing him to lose his rationality. Now things have already been decided. There was no use regretting. In that case, he could only do his best to change the ending. To Qin Wentian, the only hope he had to change the situation was the Saint Devil Hall. Lifting his foot, his gaze was incomparably resolute as he stepped into the dilapidated hall. This scene caused Wuxia's expression to turn extremely unsightly. He was very clear about Qin Wentian's talent. Regardless of the City of Ancient Emperors or the Tiandao Sacred Academy, he had displayed shocking talent. In addition, he even passed the will test set by the myriad Devil Sovereign, and ascended the Devil Mountain. Wuxia really didn't wish for Qin Wentian to enter the Saint Devil Hall. However, those lofty characters wouldn't act to stop him. He had no way to do so as well. He could only watch on as Qin Wentian stepped into the Saint Devil Hall. Those cultivators in the Saint Devil Hall all maintained their original movements. No matter what happened outside, they wouldn't be affected at all. Qin Wentian soon understood why. At the instant he stepped into the Saint Devil Hall, with him at the center, countless lines of law appeared in the surroundings, like the law of the great Tao descending, frenziedly interweaving, binding his body, causing him to be unable to move. Qin Wentian wanted to move, but he discovered that he couldn't. With just a single step, he was already bound by the law of the Saint Devil Hall. The people outside didn't feel surprised. They knew what sort of place the Saint Devil Hall was. This was the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain. The Saint Devil Hall in Qin Wentian's eyes changed. It was no longer a dilapidated Devil Hall. This dilapidated Devil Hall actually contained the perfect law energy of the Great Tao. It was as resplendent and dazzling as it could be. If he couldn't comprehend this law energy, he wouldn't be able to take a single step forward, and would forever be stuck at the first step. How can it be so easy to enter the Saint Devil Hall? You will know how terrifying the sacred ground is. Yulong Shengtu coldly spoke. He had never stepped into the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain before. He didn't dare to try. The prestige of the sacred ground was sufficient to scare away the strongest geniuses at the peak. Chapter 1304. Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't know what Yulong Shengtu was thinking in his heart. Right now, he was already immersed in the world before his eyes. Countless lines of law energy transformed into runes of the Great Tao. Every line of runes would give birth to different types of energy, and from there, different innate techniques could be unleashed. This was the Tao of heaven and earth. The Tao of divine inscriptions was born from this. When Qin Wentian was in the particle world, he had once researched divine inscriptions. At that time, he had already discovered that divine inscriptions and innate techniques could be interlinked. The myriad of inscriptions were interlinked, and as he got closer and closer to the essence of energy, he would discover how miraculous it was. As for immortals and devils, there was no difference at all. Qin Wentian already had a deep understanding of this point when he ascended the Devil Mountain. He quietly closed his eyes and released his immortal sense. Everything in the surroundings appeared in his mind, incomparably clear. The streams of law energy transformed into divine inscriptions and innate techniques, binding his body. In the entire Great Hall, boundless law energy interweaved, transforming unceasingly, generating all sorts of energies. Many of these energies contained terrifying destructive might. If one was careless and came into contact with these destructive energies, they might even die here. And because of this, even for some peak-level geniuses like Yulong Shengtu, they didn't dare to casually step into the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain. On the Devil Mountain, everyone knew about the Saint Devil Hall. They also knew what the Saint Devil Hall could bring them. In fact, they also knew why the 6 Devil Halls at the peak of the Devil Mountain were able to stand tall without collapsing. They were the protectors of the Saint Devil Hall, but their power also originated from the Saint Devil Hall. In the Supreme Devil Hall where the myriad Devil Sovereign resided, law energy flowed from Qin Wentian, gradually seeping into the laws of the Devil Hall, clashing with them. After that, the spectators in the outside world only saw Qin Wentian moving. His movements were very slow. He lifted his foot and took a step forward. A destructive attack blasted over. Qin Wentian dodged to the side, barely dodging that powerful attack. His movements were extremely coordinated, as if he was very lucky. However, only Qin Wentian himself knew that if he did not have a sufficient understanding of the nomological power inside, he would not have been so lucky. Although it was just a simple step, it caused the eyes of the people outside to narrow. Yulong Shengtu even had a cold light in his eyes. This fellow actually took a step out of the Saint Devil Hall? In the Saint Devil Hall, not a single step was easy. What a lucky fellow. Yulong Shengtu coldly spoke. That terrifying beam of light earlier was actually unable to kill him. Was it really just luck? Within the Saint Devil Hall, Qin Wentian took another step out a moment later. Although his movements were still very slow, the Saint Devil Hall was no longer able to restrict his movements. This scene caused Yulong Shengtu's expression to change. Qin Wentian continued walking forward. In fact, he had already surpassed a person in the Saint Devil Hall, and was now ahead of him. The eyes of many people outside gleamed sharply. Some of the earlier disdain on the faces of some devil cultivators turned heavy. The personality of the Child of Darkness was tyrannical. He didn't allow Qin Wentian to enter the Saint Devil Hall, feeling that it was a form of blasphemy to the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain. Although the others weren't as tyrannical as the Child of Darkness, they also felt unhappy in their hearts. But since the Darkness Devil Lord who came later didn't say anything and allowed Qin Wentian to enter the Saint Devil Hall, there was nothing they could do to stop him. But even so, these devil cultivators didn't really mind. From their point of view, a mere Wuxia from the immortal realms, even if he entered their sacred ground, he would still be in a miserable state. How would he be able to enter the Saint Devil Hall? But at this moment, their confidence seemed to have wavered. Very few people could be like Qin Wentian, advancing forward the first time he entered the Saint Devil Hall. Even though it was extremely difficult for him to move, he still chose to advance. Little did they know that in here, there were many people who could stay here for several months at a time. But for Qin Wentian, although he was only at the starting phase, at the very least, his starting phase was extremely perfect. It can't be that he really entered the depths of the sacred ground, right? Many people had a ridiculous thought. If this was really the case, leaving aside the fact that an immortal Wuxia managed to enter the depths of the Saint Devil Hall, leaving aside the fact that they, the disciples of the Devil Mountain, would have any face left? If there was another character like the founder of the myriad ancient Devil Hall, would this Devil Mountain still be the Devil Mountain for devil cultivators? However, such a thought flashed by in an instant. This was just the beginning. The founder of the myriad ancient Devil Hall was able to establish a Devil Hall. He must definitely be a character that could shake the past and present. How could he be someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with others? Qin Wentian gradually entered the depths of the Saint Devil Hall. After avoiding the law energy, he saw a devil pillar before him. It was extremely terrifying, containing boundless devil law energy. All of a sudden, the figure of a devil lord appeared on top of the devil pillar as a fearsome will directly pierced into Qin Wentian's mind. Boom! This will was tyrannical to the extreme, like a devil lord staring at Qin Wentian, wanting to destroy his will. Rumble, rumble. Qin Wentian's aura involuntarily erupted forth. However, the attack of his will had nothing to do with the strength of his physical body. This was merely Qin Wentian's instinctive reaction. He involuntarily retreated a few steps. Swishing sounds rang out as an extremely dangerous aura bore down on him. Qin Wentian diverted a portion of his attention and did his best to evade. That attack slashed past his shoulder, causing a stream of blood to flow out, as well as an excruciating pain. However, Qin Wentian didn't have the time to care about that kind of pain. The terrifying will was the tyrannical will of a sky devil. In his mind, there was a devil lord staring down at him from above, unceasingly launching attacks at him, wanting to destroy his will. The attacks were like bolts of unexcelled lightning, containing boundless might and terrifying to the extreme. Qin Wentian's will took on a corporeal form in his sea of consciousness, manifesting a terrifying god's hand that blasted out, blotting out the skies, wanting to destroy the will that was invading his sea of consciousness. However, he only saw the will gushing into his mind unceasingly. The Devil King in his sea of consciousness was like a devil god. Numerous bolts of darkness and devilish lightning blasted out, shattering the palm imprints, wanting to destroy everything. A scene of doomsday appeared in Qin Wentian's mind. The heavenly devils were tyrannical. The devil tribulation churned wildly. This place was like a devil domain, crushing everything. This caused Qin Wentian to feel as though his head was about to explode. The pain was incomparable, and he almost wanted to give up. Saint Devil Hall. A thought appeared in Qin Wentian's mind. When he thought of Bai Qing being brought to the Blood Devil Cliff, his will grew even more resolute. A supreme greater demon manifested in his will, a divine dragon soaring in the air, a vermilion bird letting out a long cry, a divine elephant suppressing the sky, a great rock slashing through the air. Numerous resplendent diagrams appeared in his will, causing the heavens and earth to tremble unceasingly. However, at this moment, there seemed to be a devil law enveloping him, preventing him from being corroded by the other attacks. Qin Wentian groaned unceasingly as he coughed out blood. His countenance turned pale, But he gritted his teeth and persisted. The clash of wills in his mind grew more and more terrifying. That devil lord stared at him, howling in rage, telling him to give up resisting. But how could Qin Wentian give up? He continued to frenziedly fight and finally, his strength destroyed that will. When he opened his eyes, a resplendent light flashed past. He stared at the towering devil pillar before him as his heart trembled. Was this place the Saint Devil Hall? As expected of the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain, it was actually so difficult to advance. He closed his eyes and quietly cultivated. Right now he was in a daze. If he continued to advance, he would most likely die. He finally understood why so many people who entered the Saint Devil Hall had chosen to remain at their original location. This Saint Devil Hall was filled with danger. This time around he has no way to advance, right? In the outside world, Yulong Shengtu's expression was cold as he spoke. Qin Wentian, who was inside, finally stopped. Clearly he was obstructed by the attack of the devil pillar. This time around, Qin Wentian paused for a long time. Just when many people felt that it would be difficult for him to advance, he lifted his foot again and moved deeper into the depths of the Saint Devil Hall. Interesting. Monk Bujia laughed. This fellow caused such a huge commotion in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Now that he came to the Devil Mountain, it seemed that he wanted to leave a deep impression on the peak geniuses of the myriad Devil Islands. Qin Wentian directly walked past the stone pillar and continued forward. After passing through danger after danger, he had already surpassed several experts who remained in the Saint Devil Hall. In fact, he passed through quite a few devil pillars and each of them contained a powerful devil energy. Only until he encountered another extremely terrifying will attack did his footsteps halt here. This time around, the attack was from an incomparably terrifying existence like the Imperial Dragon Devil God. This devil god stared down at the world with disdain, and was riding on a gigantic dragon of darkness that blotted out the sun. Every time he attacked, a devil dragon would descend, wanting to destroy everything, wanting to devour everything. When the terrifying devil dragon of darkness opened its abyss-like mouth, Qin Wentian felt that his will was about to collapse, completely devoured. If his will was destroyed, Qin Wentian had no way to predict what terrifying consequences would occur. For the first time, that devil god was like a heavenly devil, unleashing the might of a devil calamity. This time around, the devil god sitting on the devil dragon of darkness stared down at everything with disdain. This caused Qin Wentian to think of the Sky Devil Hall and the Imperial Dragon Devil Hall, the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain. This Saint Devil Hall seemed to contain the power of several devil mountains at the peak of the Devil Mountain. This made Qin Wentian feel that if he could truly peer into the secrets of this Saint Devil Hall, he might even have a chance to see the 6 devil halls clearly. Back then, the myriad ancient devil hall was also established like this, right? Qin Wentian's heart was filled with a fearsome battle intent. Within his will, the demonic divinity manifested. The 8 demonic divinities revolved around him, unceasingly blocking the incoming attacks. Chapter 1305. With the glory of this victory, Wuxia acted the same way as Qin Wentian back then, domineeringly stepping into the Saint Devil Hall. Qin Wentian stood there, his steps seemed a little unsteady. However, his will was resolute, allowing the fearsome wills to rush into his mind. Even when his will to resist was destroyed, he still guarded his will, not dissipating. It was like he was using the remnant will of his will to protect himself from destruction. Such an attack was too terrifying. At the end, devil might actually gushed forth from Qin Wentian involuntarily, faintly fusing with the energy in his body. The energy erupting forth from him contained the aura of a devil. This dilapidated devil hall was the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain, the Saint Hall. Finally, Qin Wentian arrived at the end of this devil hall. Qin Wentian knew that what he was experiencing now was the test of the Saint Devil Hall. And this sacred ground of the Devil Mountain would surely have a core area. In fact, he might even have a chance to see the inheritance power of the 6 devil halls here. At the peak of the Devil Mountain, before the Saint Devil Hall, there would still be people coming here every day. Day after day, year after year. That last Bai Qing was still waiting for him at the Blood Devil Cliff. He definitely had to do some things in this Saint Devil Hall. This resolute conviction of his pushed him forward. Even though he almost fell into darkness, he still didn't give up. Before this, when Qin Wentian entered the Saint Devil Hall from the outside, he saw that the attitudes of the other experts were different. But now he wanted to test them one by one. Only then did he understand why these people were like this. Just like what Qin Wentian had predicted, he finally arrived before another devil pillar that had the attribute of one of the 6 devil halls. This time around, when the terrifying will of the Devil King rushed into his mind, Qin Wentian discovered that it was the will of an ancient devil. Also, it was able to summon an ancient devil. When the will of thousands of ancient devils rushed into his mind, Qin Wentian's will was basically unable to endure it. However, Qin Wentian's figure gradually vanished from the vision of Yulong Shengtu and the others. He walked towards the depths of this dilapidated devil hall, entering a place unknown to them, a place they had never been to before. Phew! Qin Wentian, who was lying there, let out a long sigh. His face was a little pale. Even at this moment, there was still a powerful demonic will lingering in his mind, as if he could not get rid of it. In the depths of his eyes, there was even a flash of black demonic light. Luckily, the attack of the will wasn't without an end. Eventually, it dissipated and stopped. Only then did Qin Wentian heave a sigh of relief. He felt his entire body going limp, his legs unsteady as he slumped onto the ground. The people who came from the immortal realms were actually all-powerful to this extent. But this time around, although the people were different, their experiences were strangely familiar. This time around, the immortal realm cultivator who ascended the Devil Mountain didn't speak too much and directly swept through everything, fighting his way up the mountain. Everywhere he passed by, there was no one who could obstruct his footsteps. The good show is over, time to return. Wuxia stretched his back lazily. To cultivators at their level, time was very long. Hence, they could continue to observe Qin Wentian from here. But now, they could no longer see Qin Wentian. It was time for them to leave as well. This fellow surpassed all the geniuses of the Devil Mountain, advancing deeper and deeper into the Devil Mountain, leaving everyone behind him. If this continues, will he still be able to hold on? Qin Wentian sighed. Powerful comprehension ability, supreme will, both had to reach an extreme. Could it be that only then would he be able to enter the core area of the Saint Devil Hall? All the storms in the outside world had nothing to do with Qin Wentian. He who was in the Saint Devil Hall had no time to care about what was happening outside. He couldn't even take care of himself. When did the immortal realms become so powerful? To their Devil Mountain, this was simply doomsday. In fact, Wu Yin, who was stripped of her position as the child of darkness, came here with jealousy and hatred towards Qin Wentian, obstructing those who entered the Devil Mountain. But what was incomparably shocking was that this time around, the child of darkness was defeated once again. Not only did he fail to obstruct his opponent, he was even injured, shocking the entire Devil Mountain. Closing his eyes, Qin Wentian had no distractions in his heart. He rested once more. This time around, he rested for an even longer period of time before continuing on his journey. Some people are really good at mocking others. Now their faces are truly unsightly. Wuxia swaggered out of this place. That arrogant manner of his made it seem like the person who entered the Saint Devil Hall was him. Even though there were only a few steps left, Qin Wentian still walked very slowly and stably. He arrived at the end of the path, and pushed open the Devil Gate. After that he lifted his foot and stepped into it. His body directly vanished into thin air. This time around, after resting for a long period of time, Qin Wentian continued on his way. His steps were even slower and more stable. The dilapidated Devil Hall transformed into the Great Dao Devil Hall. Qin Wentian continued on, feeling the profoundness of this place. Every step was incomparably difficult, and every step was a test. As long as he made a single mistake, all his previous efforts would be wasted. He didn't dare to be careless at all. After that, he experienced the test of the Apostle Devil Hall, and even the Judiciary Devil Hall. When the will of the Judiciary Devil Lord tried to corrode him, there was basically no way for him to block it. His will, which had been tortured countless times, was already riddled with holes, incomparably ancient and ancient. It felt like it could easily shatter. His guess was verified step by step. After all, he still experienced the devil pillar energy from the other devil halls. In the darkness devil hall, his entire person was devoured by the devil lord of darkness, turning into nothingness. His will also sank into nothingness, about to dissipate at any moment. However, his heart was resolute, and his supreme will allowed him to resist the corrosion of the strongest external forces. Even when the darkness enveloped him, he still managed to endure it. He didn't retreat and continued on his way. Hence, those devil cultivators felt even more resentful towards Wuxia. This time around, when they saw another immortal realm Wuxia arriving, countless experts rushed over to obstruct him, wanting to stop him from ascending to the peak. Before this, Qin Wentian had already caused quite a commotion. The experts on both sides of the path obstructed Qin Wentian, but they were still blasted all the way to the peak by him. At the end of the dilapidated Devil Hall, there seemed to be a gate that led to another dimension. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. Has he finally arrived? That place was the place he wanted to head to. His feelings seemed to have come true. For a very long period of time after that, more and more immortal realm Wuxia ascended the Devil Mountain. Every immortal realm Wuxia who ascended the Devil Mountain had outstanding talent, causing a huge commotion on the Devil Mountain. This time around, Qin Wentian's will was broken, but he didn't crumble. His powerful will protected his will, allowing the boundless devil will to invade his mind, frenziedly sweeping through it. His body trembled unceasingly, as though he was on the verge of collapse, about to collapse at any moment. Today, another person ascended the Devil Mountain. If it was just this, there wouldn't be anything strange. After all, there would often be people who passed the test of the myriad devil sovereign. But this time around, the person who ascended the Devil Mountain was still an immortal realm Wuxia. After clashing time and time again, Qin Wentian finally managed to block the will of the devil god shadow that was controlling the devil dragon of darkness. After enduring such terrifying will attacks twice, in addition to the fact that he had to traverse the Devil Hall, Qin Wentian felt extremely fatigued. He closed his eyes and directly sat down cross-legged to cultivate. Although the Child of Darkness couldn't be considered the strongest genius on the Devil Mountain, he was still one of the top characters with outstanding talent. However, he was actually defeated twice by people from different immortal realms. The test seemed to have no end. The further one went, the harder it would be. Every step was as difficult as ascending the heavens. Let's go. The experts of the myriad ancient Devil Hall nodded, their eyes gleaming with sharpness. This fellow Bujia's talent was extremely outstanding, and he was proficient in all arts of the Buddhist path. Hence, he also had an extremely high comprehension ability when it came to the devil path arts of the myriad ancient Devil Hall. Such talent was enough for the myriad ancient Devil Hall to nurture him as their successor. Right now, they didn't expect that a good friend of Bujia who came from the immortal realms would actually be so outstanding as well, instantly killing Yulong Shengtu, the Child of Darkness and the other peak geniuses of the Devil Mountain. This was too shocking, simply toppling their way of thinking. But precisely because of this will that could shatter at any moment, there was an undying will that urged him forward. Even the Judgment Devil Hall wouldn't be able to kill him. This also attracted the attention of the peak geniuses of the Devil Mountain. In front of the Saint Devil Hall, another incomparably powerful clash occurred. Another Child of Darkness fought against the second immortal cultivator, who ascended the Devil Mountain. Their battle could be said to be heaven-shaking and incomparably violent, causing everyone to feel their hearts trembling. But in the end, the immortal cultivator was still the victor. The sacred ground of the Devil Mountain, the deeper you go, the more dangerous it is. This is just the beginning. If you are lucky enough, you might be able to come out alive. Yulong Shengtu coldly stared at the depths of the Saint Devil Hall, as though he was unwilling to admit it. After speaking, he turned and departed. This caused everyone to feel that the Devil Mountain wasn't peaceful at all. Something major was about to happen. Other than this, everyone discovered an interesting phenomenon. For those geniuses of the immortal realms who came to the Devil Mountain, there seemed to be something wrong with them. A few battles actually erupted on the Devil Mountain, causing everyone to be puzzled. Chapter 1306. After stepping through the gate, Qin Wentian entered another dimension. He stared at everything before him. There was no longer any pressure from before. Instantly, his heart and soul relaxed as he drew in a deep breath, feeling extremely comfortable. The journey earlier was too difficult, and he was extremely exhausted. But now, in this vast space, there were ancient halls and the air was exceptionally fresh. It was like this was an otherworldly place, not a place for devil cultivators at all. Is this the place where the myriad devil sovereign resided? Qin Wentian silently mused. His silhouette flickered as he flew forward. Numerous ancient halls exuded an ancient aura. Qin Wentian slowly walked forward and entered an ancient hall. There was naturally no one here, but there were many jade slips within the hall. It was as though the collection was extremely rich. He walked to the front of the jade slips and stared at the ancient words below. After that, his will sank into them as the information recorded in the jade slips flowed into his mind. There were many cultivation arts and techniques of the devil path, as well as many things that happened in the past. However, these were all from the devil path and didn't belong to the myriad devil sovereign. In this vast space, there were many ancient devil halls. Clearly, the myriad devil sovereign wasn't the only one who resided here in the past. After looking at it for a long time, he left the ancient palace and went to another place. Soon he found a special feature. He could look at it, but it was enveloped by a powerful and mystical rule power. He couldn't take it away. Even if there was a treasure trove here, he can forget about taking anything away. As for the second discovery, it caused Qin Wentian's heart to tremble. Within this ancient hall, not only were there devil path cultivation arts and techniques, there were also immortal arts and innate techniques. Different devil halls had different collections, but it could truly be said that they contained everything in the world. This place is a treasure trove. Qin Wentian sighed deeply. After passing through that dilapidated Saint Devil Hall and entering this place, most probably, only then did he truly step into the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain. Maybe, only this place could be called the Devil Mountain. Most probably, without 100 years of time, there was no way to completely digest all the treasures here, let alone cultivate. As for Qin Wentian, he didn't have that much time. Moreover, the power he cultivated was already strong enough, and he even cultivated a powerful unique skill. Ordinary cultivation methods and supernatural powers were nothing to him. He continued forward, passing by many palaces. All of a sudden, his expression changed. After that, he soared up into the air, and when he reached an extremely high altitude, he lowered his head and stared downwards. At this instant, his eyes gleamed with sharpness. So it turned out that the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain was actually an ancient city. Every ancient palace here could have been the residence of an expert in the past. Qin Wentian's figure flickered as he headed toward the front of the city. There were too many palaces here. If he were to look at them one by one, there would be no end to them. He could only go to the most central area. After walking for a long time, he finally saw 9 majestic-looking devil palaces. They seemed to be supreme ancient palaces. 9. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. There were actually 9 devil palaces here? Why weren't there 7? At the peak of the Devil Mountain, including the Saint Devil Hall, there were a total of 7 devil halls. But here, there were actually 2 more. What made Qin Wentian even more shocked was that the terrain here was somewhat similar to the peak of the Devil Mountain. Could it be that the Devil Mountain has always lacked 2 devil halls? Qin Wentian suddenly had a bold guess. It was said that at the very beginning, other than the Saint Devil Hall, there were only the Judiciary Devil Hall, Darkness Devil Hall and Apostle Devil Hall. The other 3 devil halls were only born after that. The myriad ancient devil hall had a clear history. It was an immortal realm expert named Wuxia who entered the sacred ground and paved the way for the myriad ancient devil hall. If this was the case, could Qin Wentian guess that there were still 2 more devil halls in this sacred ground that had yet to find their inheritors? Hence, these 2 devil halls didn't exist on the peak of the Devil Mountain. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed as he flew towards one of the devil halls. This devil hall exuded a majestic aura, exuding boundless devil might, terrifying to the extreme. If Qin Wentian didn't guess wrongly, this devil hall should be the Sky Devil Hall at the peak of the Devil Mountain. His body soon arrived above the Devil Hall. But at this moment his expression abruptly changed. A terrifying might abruptly manifested, enveloping this Devil Hall with boundless sky devil might. Boundless law energy radiated forth, blasting into Qin Wentian, causing him to be flung through the air. Qin Wentian groaned in misery as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with fear as he stared at the boundless might below. He continued to retreat, as though he was worried that the terrifying attack might appear again. But very swiftly, the fluctuations gradually weakened, as though they wouldn't erupt out on their own. This Devil Hall was actually protected by a powerful energy. It was different from the other Devil Halls before. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed, searching for the source of this energy. His eyes shifted and finally landed on the Devil Hall. Over there was an incomparably terrifying Sky Devil Saber. This Devil Blade was like a world-shocking divine weapon, and it contained boundless heavenly devil tribulation energy. It seemed as if every single strand of energy that effused out from it contained world-shaking destructive might. If it were to erupt completely, then it would be sufficient to annihilate fiend gods, and it possessed divine might capable of annihilating everything. Devil Divine Weapon. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He glanced over and saw that before the 9 Devil Halls, there were actually divine weapons everywhere. That incomparably imposing blood-colored Devil Hall should be the Judiciary Devil Hall. There was a scepter there that symbolized supreme authority. With the scepter in one's hand, one would be able to become the Judiciary King. In front of a dragon hall that exuded terrifying demonic chi, there was the Imperial Dragon Devil Hall. At the front, a dragon whip could be seen. This whip was actually in the shape of a dragon, and was extremely vivid and lifelike, resembling an incomparably terrifying devil dragon of darkness. If one lifted this whip, they would be able to control all demonic dragons. There was another Devil Hall that was like a shadow, enveloped in darkness. Qin Wentian guessed that this Devil Hall might be the Darkness Devil Hall. Outside this Devil Hall, there was a gigantic plate of darkness that resembled a bowl of darkness. The interior was incomparably deep, filled with boundless darkness, like a black hole. This was extremely similar to the energy the Child of Darkness unleashed when he was fighting against Qin Wentian. The darkness devoured everything, wanting to cause this entire space to sink into a black hole. Each of the 9 Devil Halls was the same. Qin Wentian glanced at them one by one as his heart trembled. He was thinking, how could he break through that terrifying defensive power and enter the Devil Hall? Could it be that by entering the Devil Hall of this sacred ground, he would obtain the inheritance? In the past, did the founder of the Myriad Ancient Devil Hall enter this place, and enter the hall that symbolized the Myriad Ancient Devil Hall? From there, he created a new era, creating the Myriad Ancient Devil Hall. Qin Wentian continued his search. If everything was as he guessed, this place represented the 9 inheritances left behind by the Myriad Devil Sovereign. Each of the Devil Halls corresponded to a Devil Hall at the peak of the Devil Mountain. In that case, there should still be 2 more Devil Halls that have yet to be found. Which 2 Devil Halls would they be? Very swiftly, Qin Wentian's gaze locked onto the 2 Devil Halls. One of the Devil Halls gave off a feeling of tyrannical sharpness, unexcelled in the world, capable of destroying the heavens and earth. In front of this Devil Hall, there wasn't just a single Devil Divine Weapon, there were many of them. Each of them was incomparably sharp and exuded a terrifying devilish chi. Qin Wentian had no way to guess what inheritance power this Devil Hall contained exactly. There was another Devil Hall that gave Qin Wentian a feeling of endless destruction. The Devil Divine Weapon in front of this Devil Hall was an ancient halberd that could destroy all existences. It was tyrannical to the extreme, standing tall in the air. It was like the constellations Qin Wentian saw when his will connected to the 9 heavenly layers, exuding an incomparably fearsome might. What do I have to do to enter these Devil Halls? If I can enter all 9 of them, would I be able to gather the inheritance of all 9 halls? Qin Wentian brazenly mused. However, right now, there were already 7 Devil Halls at the peak of the Devil Mountain. Even if he obtained the inheritance of the Darkness Devil Hall or Sky Devil Hall, they might not be able to tolerate him. After all, the Devil Halls on the mountain already had an owner. But at the very least, Qin Wentian would be able to obtain the power of those devil halls. Since I've already come here, I have to continue trying. A ruthless light flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. He had to be more ruthless to himself. If not, his trip to the Devil Mountain would have been a waste. If he couldn't enter the 9 strongest devil halls, it would be a failure to him. Even if this place was the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain, and had countless books and records, other than the 9 supreme devil halls, nothing else would be able to satisfy him. His silhouette flickered, and he walked to the gigantic Sky Devil blade that symbolized the Sky Devil Palace. He directly cut his finger, and drops of blood dripped onto the Sky Devil blade. In that instant, boundless Sky Devil light of calamity appeared on the Sky Devil blade, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. In just an instant, the wind and clouds in the sky howled, and the color of the sky changed. This city of the sacred ground suddenly turned into a destructive darkness, as if a Sky Devil god had descended into the world. Qin Wentian felt fear in his heart. He inclined his head and stared at the destructive devil storm in the sky as his heart pounded violently. After that, a terrifying will of the heavenly devil rushed into his sea of consciousness. With a poochie sound, Qin Wentian directly coughed out a mouthful of blood as his body was flung through the air. His countenance was as pale as paper. How terrifying! A thought appeared in Qin Wentian's mind. After that, numerous terrifying wills bore down on him. At the same time, scenes of doomsday enveloped him. At this moment, Qin Wentian felt as though he was in the midst of doomsday. A Sky Devil saber, through the connection of that drop of blood, wanted to enter his sea of consciousness. Qin Wentian was extremely decisive. He instantly severed that connection. After that, he coughed out another mouthful of blood as his body fell to the ground half kneeling. Only then did the world-destroying might gradually dissipate. Chapter 1307. The heavens and earth regained their calmness. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath as his body trembled. In that instant earlier, the entire world seemed to have changed. It was like an apocalyptic world. That was a true heaven and earth devil tribulation, exuding an apocalyptic might. Inclining his head, Qin Wentian stared at the devil saber before him as a sense of reverence appeared in his heart. The sacred ground of the myriad devil islands, the 9 devil halls were actually protected by supreme divine weapons, preventing others from entering. At this moment, he also understood why he had to pass through that dilapidated devil hall to reach this place. If he couldn't even pass through that place and came here directly, that attack earlier would have been sufficient to destroy him. That strand of wool earlier seems to have brought along some fragments of memories. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stared at the devil saber. It was just that because that attack was too sudden, the fragments of memories were all destroyed, not leaving any imprints in his mind. What was that? Qin Wentian mumbled. He closed his eyes and sat cross-legged, simply sitting there to recover. After some time, when he opened his eyes again, a dazzling light could be seen within. Standing up, he stared at the devil halls before him as he felt some hesitation in his heart. There were 9 devil halls before him. Given his current cultivation base, it was basically impossible for him to attempt them one by one. If that was the case, he would be in a very miserable state. If the divine weapons before the devil halls were the passageways to open them, he could only choose one of them. If this was the case, he would have to give up on the Sky Devil Hall. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered. He appeared before another devil hall. Outside this devil hall, there was an extremely terrifying devil halberd. In terms of cultivation, he would clearly be more compatible with this devil hall. However, he was still hesitating. There were a total of 9 devil halls. The Judiciary Devil Hall, Darkness Devil Hall and Apostle Devil Hall were born together with the Saint Devil Hall, and their statuses seemed to be even higher. As for Bai Qing, she was in the Judiciary Devil Hall. Maybe in this place, other than the Saint Devil Hall, there was no difference in statuses between the other 8 halls. But on the Devil Mountain, there was a difference. If he only entered the Judiciary Devil Hall and obtained the inheritance, his status might not be comparable to the inheritors of the other devil halls. As for wanting to establish a devil hall like the founder of the myriad ancient devil hall, At the very least, with his current cultivation base, this was nothing but a pipe dream. Without sufficient strength, everything would be useless. After hesitating for a long time, Qin Wentian's expression hardened. He took a step forward and actually left this devil hall, flashing in another direction. This time, since he had already arrived at the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain and entered the depths of the sacred ground, why not take a gamble? Since he wanted to fight, he should try to reach that supreme place. Hence, Qin Wentian's body came to the front of the Supreme Devil Hall, the Saint Devil Hall. This Devil Hall was located at the center of all the Devil Halls, the absolute core. The myriad Devil Sovereign governed the myriad Devil Islands, and all the Devil Halls submitted to him. And the myriad Devil Sovereign was none other than the master of this Devil Hall. Qin Wentian didn't know if the myriad Devil Sovereign still existed in this generation of the myriad Devil Islands. But since this Devil Hall was the Saint Devil Hall, it would definitely contain the inheritance of the myriad Devil Sovereign. In addition, on the Devil Mountain, the Saint Devil Hall was in ruins. It seemed that no one else had obtained the inheritance of the myriad Devil Sovereign. Naturally, it was unknown if there were people hiding Qin Wentian. But at the very least, even if there were people who succeeded, they didn't cultivate to the peak of the myriad Devil Sovereign. This Saint Devil Hall was the most unique one. Before the other Devil Halls, there were incomparably tyrannical devil weapons. Only this Devil Hall had divine weapons that weren't used for attacking. What appeared before Qin Wentian's eyes was a gigantic devil throne. It was like a supreme throne, the throne of a king. If there was someone who could sit on it, that person would be the Lord of the Devil Mountain. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. He stepped forward, but this time around, he didn't directly cut his finger and drip his blood onto the throne. If this throne was like the Sky Devil Saber, he was worried that he wouldn't be able to endure it, and his will would be directly destroyed. He gradually got closer to the throne. His silhouette flashed as he appeared before the throne. After that, he stretched out his hand and tried to touch the throne. In an instant, the heavens and earth changed color as a supreme devil might descended, enveloping the entire space. Boundless devil light enveloped everything as a fearsome trembling energy gushed into Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. This time around, he didn't loosen his hand, he held on with all his might. In his sea of consciousness, a throne also appeared, quietly standing there like an eternal existence, waiting for the king on the throne. Boom! A fearsome might bore down. On the throne, the shadow of a devil god appeared, standing there, ruling over the world. Tens of thousands of devils wept as they prostrated themselves beneath his feet. In Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness, an illusory devil god also appeared. At this moment, Qin Wentian's will felt a sense of submission, wanting to submit to the throne. Both his legs trembled as though he wanted to kneel on the ground and prostrate himself. No! Qin Wentian screamed. Both his legs were trembling violently, as though they were no longer under his control. He wanted to kneel down, but his will was still holding on, unwilling to give up. The heavens and earth changed color. This city transformed into a devil city. The shadow of numerous devil kings appeared in the air, exuding boundless devil might. The boundless energy converged into one, landing on the throne. The figure on the throne stood there. The entire world had to submit to him. No one could defy him. Boom! A world-shaking devil saber slashed down towards Qin Wentian's will. The power of heavenly devil thunder rumbled endlessly, slashing down together with the saber, wanting to destroy everything. For those who refused to submit, there would be no mercy at all. No! Qin Wentian roared. The attack formed from his will wanted to resist, but he discovered that in front of the Supreme Devil Lord, his resistance was so weak that it couldn't even be mentioned. Gotcha! Qin Wentian's strength was shattered. A terrifying destructive might blasted down, crushing his will. However, the remnant of Qin Wentian's will was still persisting, unwilling to retreat. The devil on the throne looked down on everything. A blood-colored light of judgment descended, sweeping everything away. Pooh! Qin Wentian's entire body trembled as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. After that, his consciousness faded as though he had suffered an extremely heavy injury. He directly fainted and lay down on the ground. The devil on the throne gradually vanished, as the violent devil energy dissipated. Everything returned to normal, as though nothing had happened at all. On the ground, only Qin Wentian's body could be seen quietly lying there like a corpse, not moving at all. Many days later, Qin Wentian finally woke up from his coma. He slowly stood up, feeling an intense pain in his head. However, in his eyes, a dazzling light flickered. Throne Devil Sovereign, the ruler of all devils, the sovereign of all devils. Qin Wentian stared ahead. Previously, he was already prepared in his heart. When he touched the throne, he discovered that some memories appeared in his mind. He faintly knew how terrifying that power was. This made him even more determined. He had to break through the defenses of the Devil Hall and enter. This was the Devil Hall of the Myriad Devil Sovereign, a hall that could control all devils. If he could enter, the other devil halls wouldn't be able to compare to him. All the other devil halls were controlled by this devil hall. Qin Wentian steeled his resolve and tried again. However, the ending wasn't any different. Although he persisted for a longer period of time, he was still blasted into unconsciousness. Luckily, there weren't any other dangers here. If not, he would have died without a doubt. He tried again and again, but he failed again and again. Qin Wentian was defeated again and again, but he continued to fight. After countless failures, the will of humans would become weaker and weaker, unable to withstand a single strike. However, Qin Wentian's will grew firmer and firmer. The stronger this power was, the more he wanted to conquer it. However, this was like an insurmountable mountain. It was too difficult. After all, this Devil Hall was the symbol of the Saint Devil Hall. Finally, Qin Wentian tried again. The heavens and earth changed, transforming into a world of devils. This time, Qin Wentian persisted for a longer time, but it was still useless. The blood-colored scepter of judgment, the world-destroying sky devil saber, the boundless devil energy all gushed forth at the same time. There was no way to block them at all. In addition, this time around, this power seemed to be enraged, frenziedly rushing into Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness, wanting to control Qin Wentian's will. The terrifying devil might was unblockable. Although Qin Wentian's will was firm to the extreme, his cultivation base was still too weak. His will wasn't strong enough, and he still had no way to open the Saint Devil Hall, where the Myriad Devil Sovereign resided. When that terrifying devil will frenziedly invaded Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness, Qin Wentian felt as though his body was no longer under his control. However, he still maintained his consciousness and didn't disperse. That devil will frenziedly swept through, even rushing into the tiny astral being in Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. It was as though it had discovered something. It actually frenziedly rushed into the depths of the tiny astral being. Qin Wentian's heart violently pounded. There were actually other types of energy that could enter there? What sort of energy was this devil will exactly? At this moment, in the boundless astral world, an intense collision suddenly occurred. It was as though two different wills were clashing against each other. A shattering force descended, directly dissipating the devil will. That controlling energy was unceasingly destroyed, and in Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness, the figure on the throne directly collapsed. At this instant, the throne shattered into pieces. In the outside world, the throne that stood in the void seemed to split open from the middle. Then a path was opened up. Chapter 1308. Boom! Qin Wentian only felt his consciousness returning. He opened his eyes as an intense headache assaulted his mind. He stared at the path opened up. He simply didn't dare to imagine that he had actually won. Before this, although he tried his best to conquer this devil hall, even he couldn't help but to admit that this was nothing but a distant dream. He couldn't see any hope, and it was extremely difficult to realize. This Saint Devil Hall was the place where the Myriad Devil Sovereign resided. The Sovereign of the Devil Path was invincible, but now, a path was forcefully opened up. Not thinking too much, Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath and stepped into the Devil Hall. The interior of this Devil Hall was extremely unique. It was completely different from the other Devil Halls Qin Wentian had entered before. There seemed to be nothing here. Only diagrams were engraved on the ground. Qin Wentian walked up, recalling some of the memories he obtained from the throne outside. He stood in the center of the diagrams, and after that he formed ancient seals with both his hands as he blasted them out, imprinting them onto the ground. A bright light flowed about, growing increasingly resplendent. At this instant, the diagrams on the ground seemed to be moving, changing unceasingly. An ancient book of the Devil Path appeared on the ground. Rustling sounds rang out as the pages of the ancient book flipped. Boundless devil runes appeared, and in an instant, beams of devilish light shot up into the sky, piercing through the heavens, as though they were breaking apart this world, moving towards the boundless starry space. The beams of devilish light reflected back, enveloping Qin Wentian and the ancient book, as well as the entire Devil Hall. Countless devil runes floated in the air as a fearsome will descended from the heavens. In the air, a supreme devil figure appeared. He sat on the throne, resembling the astral devil sovereign, the sovereign of all devils, the sovereign of all devils. Intense waves of shock appeared in Qin Wentian's heart. What a terrifying devil might, what a powerful devil will. Everything was as he had guessed. This devil hall was the true Saint Devil Hall. Was this place the true inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign? If this was the case, was he currently accepting the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign? Only to see Qin Wentian drawing in a deep breath and closing his eyes. The ancient book of the Devil Path enveloped him, basking in the radiance of the devil sovereign. Numerous devil runes floated into Qin Wentian's mind, causing numerous ancient runes to appear, as though they were floating out from the ancient book, imprinting themselves into his mind. In the air, the devilish phantom on the throne unleashed a terrifying will that bore down on Qin Wentian, directly penetrating into his sea of consciousness. Qin Wentian groaned in misery as he almost fell to the ground. His will was on the verge of collapsing, but luckily this time around, the will wasn't attacking him. Instead, it was transmitting its will into his sea of consciousness. Hence, Qin Wentian was able to endure it. If not, with just a single will, Qin Wentian would already be lying on the ground, unable to climb back up. This will was simply too powerful. It was unknown how many times stronger compared to the will in the external world. However, even if this will didn't have any offensive capabilities, the powerful law energy within it still caused Qin Wentian to feel a sense of submission. This was the will of the Devil Dao Sovereign, the ruler of all devils. Together with the runes in the Devil Book, the will of the Devil Dao Sovereign flowed into his sea of consciousness, transmitting this power to him. Qin Wentian knew what sort of opportunity this represented. He naturally wouldn't give it up. Even if it was extremely painful, he still had to persist. Qin Wentian also understood how lucky he was to be able to reach this point. Initially, it was basically impossible for something like this to happen. But because of some special existences, the impossible became reality. How could Qin Wentian miss out on such an extremely rare opportunity? Countless runes imprinted themselves into his mind. The will of the myriad devil sovereign gushed into his body, interweaving into a resplendent scene. Qin Wentian did his best to absorb all the energy he could, forgetting the flow of time. In the external world, in this sacred ground, another person walked in. This person was none other than the one who killed his way up the Devil Mountain just like Qin Wentian. The one who obtained the inheritance of the founder of the 9 Emperors' immortal state, Huang Shatian, also walked in here. Just like Qin Wentian, after he tried, he actually made the same choice as Qin Wentian, walking towards the Saint Devil Hall. That Saint Devil Hall closed again after Qin Wentian entered. Huang Shatian had no idea what was happening inside. He also wanted to enter, but after trying for a long time, he finally knew that it was impossible. Even if he had the supreme inheritance of the 9 Emperors' immortal state, he still wouldn't be able to break through the barrier of this hall. Helpless, Huang Shatian could only choose another Devil Hall. Finally, he chose that incomparably sharp Devil Hall with many divine weapons, and accepted the Devil test. The sky changed colors, the space changed. In this boundless space, only the divine weapons of the devil could penetrate through the heavens and earth, controlling millions of devil weapons. Huang Shatian tried with difficulty and was forced back several times, coughing out blood. He had no way to enter, but his will was also incomparably tough. Finally, he broke through all obstacles and entered the Devil Hall. After Huang Shatian, there was actually another expert who entered the sacred ground. This person was none other than the immortal realm's Wuxia. His entire body exuded an immeasurable aura, and was clad in white armor, exuding a sense of imposingness. Consecutively, 3 immortal realms Wuxia all entered the core of the sacred ground. As for the devil cultivators, there wasn't a single one at all. This seemed to prove that the devil cultivators on the Devil Mountain were inferior to Wuxia, but in reality, this wasn't the case. For those who could enter here, they had already done so before. For those who didn't, they were still trying again and again. But for these peak geniuses of the immortal realms, this was the first time they ascended the Devil Mountain. It was only normal for the few at the very peak to enter the core. On the Devil Mountain, it was extremely lively because there were many young geniuses who ascended. In addition, many of them were actually immortal realms Wuxia, and they were divided into 2 factions. The people on the Devil Mountain also finally knew that these immortal realms Wuxia were attracted here by that fellow from the Apostle Devil Hall. Many devil cultivators cursed silently in their hearts. However, the arrival of these immortal realms Wuxia also gave the devil cultivators on the Devil Mountain a huge pressure. Because these immortal realms experts were all very strong. This was especially so for some of them. They could even contend against the juniors of the 6 devil halls at the peak of the Devil Mountain. Occasionally, there would be people talking about the 2 people who fought their way to the peak of the Devil Mountain back then. One of them was Qin Wentian. He even caused the Child of Darkness to abdicate his position, and caused the Judiciary Priestess to be locked up in the Blood Devil Cliff for 3 years, causing a huge commotion. The other person was much more direct. He fought his way to the peak of the Devil Mountain, and after defeating the Child of Darkness, he directly entered the sacred ground. His coldness and domineeringness also left a deep impression on everyone. Right now, there were already many people guessing how far these 2 fellows could go in the sacred ground. Maybe they have already died. Today, it has already been over 2 years since Qin Wentian entered the Saint Devil Hall. On a certain location on the Devil Mountain, there were actually many experts in a standoff. If Qin Wentian was here, he would definitely discover that these people were actually related to the adjudication battle. The 2 parties in a standoff were naturally the alliance of the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor, and the alliance of the Chongqing the Great. Qida and the others also ascended the Devil Mountain, although they arrived much later than Qin Wentian. The test of the Devil Mountain could make the vast majority of people stay, but to those with extremely outstanding talent, even the Devil Mountain wouldn't be able to trap them. For true geniuses, regardless of comprehension, will or strength, they were all above ordinary people. In this confrontation, the number of experts on the side of the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor's side was evidently higher. In addition, quite a number of conflicts had already erupted between them. But because killing was forbidden on the Devil Mountain, although many people were injured, no one died. I say, killing is forbidden on the Devil Mountain. There's no meaning for you guys to fight here and there. It wouldn't affect the adjudication battle at all. Why don't we shake hands and chat, finding a place to cultivate? Monk Bujia stood at the side and laughed, as though he wanted the world to be in chaos. However, everyone knew that Bujia's words could be considered as the truth. The adjudication battle would depend on the number of people who stepped out of the myriad devil islands. It would only be effective as long as they could kill their opponents. The 10-year deadline will eventually arrive. After we descend the Devil Mountain, we don't even need to watch to know the outcome of the adjudication battle. A peak stage Immortal Foundation character from the White Tiger people coldly spoke. His entire body radiated a tyrannical aura, and his eyes were extremely demonic. Even if you guys used despicable methods to bring more people here, as long as more of those 100 people die, the adjudication battle would still be a loss. Namfeng Ruoxuan coldly replied, not showing any weakness at all. Let's just wait and see then. An expert from the 9 Emperors' immortal state spoke. After that, he waved his hand as the group of them departed. Now that they were on the Devil Mountain, it was true that they could seize the time to cultivate. There were many good places on the mountain, and they could even fight against the devil cultivators from the various devil halls. They didn't fight? A young man laughed. This young man was none other than Jiang Ziyu from the Jiang clan of the southern regions. He inclined his head and stared in the direction of the peak of the Devil Mountain. He should have entered the Saint Devil Hall together with Qin Wentian. Wuxia from the various immortal realms started his training on the Devil Mountain. Time wouldn't stop, and in the blink of an eye, another half a year passed. Today, a figure walked out from the Saint Devil Hall, instantly attracting the attention of many. This figure was actually none other than Huang Shatian. What did you obtain in the Saint Devil Hall? An expert from the Devil Path asked. Huang Shatian coldly glanced at him and didn't bother to reply. Several experts from the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor's side stared at Huang Shatian as excitement flashed in their eyes. Right now, Huang Shatian should be even stronger, right? Is he? That devil cultivator who spoke to Huang Shatian earlier stepped out, directly slashing down with a terrifying devil saber. Huang Shatian's eyes abruptly gleamed with sharpness. He pointed his finger forward, and in an instant, the devil's saber in his opponent's hand went out of control. Release it. An extremely powerful devil might bore down on him. That expert's hand trembled as his devil's saber hummed in response. After that, it flew out of his hand and actually flew towards Huang Shatian, landing at his feet. An ultimate art of the devil path? What did you obtain? That devil cultivator's eyes gleamed with a terrifying devil light. Numerous experts from the Devil Path stared at Huang Shatian. Could this man be the same as the first myriad ancient Devil Hall leader? Chapter 1309. Huang Shatian's eyes looked at him, but the other only felt that it was not a pair of eyes, but an extremely sharp demonic ice blade. His expression kept changing. It was extremely interesting. Only to see him stretching his hands out. In an instant, boundless devil might converged as terrifying devil might gushed forth in the air. Numerous runic inscriptions flashed, and the devil weapons on the bodies of many people all started to vibrate. In the air, numerous incomparably sharp devil weapons actually appeared. Huang Shatian himself also became sharper than before. It was like his body was forged from a devil weapon. Numerous devil path experts flew over, staring fixedly at Qin Wentian. This man, Wuxia of the Immortal Realms, actually managed to enter the core region of their Devil Mountain and obtained an inheritance? This technique seemed to be able to control all divine weapons of the Devil Dao. It could also summon divine weapons of the Devil Dao, and even transform them into devil weapons. Its might was extremely terrifying. From afar, there were even powerful devil kings rushing over here. When they saw the devil might in the air gathering together to form an incomparably sharp and tyrannical weapon, they came to the Saint Devil Hall and stared at Huang Shatian. As seniors of the Devil Mountain, they had heard of some of the secrets of this Saint Devil Hall before. This hall was the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain, and it was rumored that in the depths of the Saint Devil Hall, there was a secret ground that contained all sorts of inheritances. In fact, there were even 6 devil halls which contained inheritances. However, very few people could reach that place. Even for those with outstanding talent, they might not be able to gain anything from that place. Moreover, if the cultivators of the various demon halls on the Demon Mountain really went to that place, they would usually choose to go to the power of inheritance that they were most proficient in. This way, after they came out, they would have a higher chance of achieving higher achievements in the demon hall they were in, and they might even sit on the throne. However, there were also some mutants that appeared before. The myriad ancient Devil Hall, Sky Devil Hall, Imperial Dragon Devil Hall. These were all existences that were born because of the appearance of these mutants. And now another strange being appeared. However, this person wasn't Wuxia from the Devil Mountain. He was someone from the Immortal Realms, and might have obtained an inheritance from that place. You obtained the inheritance of a Devil Hall? A Devil King stared at Huang Shatian. His deep eyes gleamed with darkness as he stared at Huang Shatian. This was a brand new power. It was very possible that he obtained the inheritance of a brand new Devil Hall. If this was the case, as long as he could continue cultivating and not die, once he reached the Devil Emperor realm, he would have the qualifications to establish a Devil Hall on the Devil Mountain. In fact, if he was strong enough, He might even be like the founder of the myriad ancient Devil Hall, placing his Devil Hall at the peak of the Devil Mountain, standing side by side with the 7 other Devil Halls that already existed. What do you all think? Huang Shatian calmly spoke. His words caused the expressions of the experts from the alliance of Chongqing the Great to change as they stared at Huang Shatian in anger. This fellow clearly saw them and knew that many experts from both sides had ascended the Devil Mountain. But since the Devil Mountain forbade killing, he wanted to chase them down before killing them. The eyes of those devil cultivators gleamed. They stared at Huang Shatian like they were looking at a treasure trove. This Huang Shatian could be considered someone who had no taboos, obtaining the inheritance of a Devil Hall. He didn't conceal it at all and released it in public. Without a doubt, given his strength, many devil cultivators would covet it. However, Huang Shatian didn't seem to care at all. He was truly audacious. Wait here for a moment. I need to consult the Devil Hall. A Devil King spoke. After that, his silhouette flickered as he sped towards the Devil Hall he was in. For those who ascended the Devil Mountain, they have all passed the test of will of the myriad Devil Sovereign, and obtained his recognition, enjoying the glory and protection of the myriad Devil Sovereign. Unless they violated the rules of the Devil Mountain, the experts of the Devil Mountain wouldn't be allowed to expel them. The Devil Halls could choose not to accept them, but they couldn't expel or kill them. This had always been the rule of the Devil Mountain. But now, because of a single sentence from Huang Shatian, these devil cultivators wanted to change this rule. One couldn't help but to say that this was already defying the will of the myriad Devil Sovereign. However, Huang Shatian's words caused them to have no choice but to consider it. They couldn't help but feel their hearts stirring. Not long after, more and more experts gathered here, including those from the immortal realms. In fact, there were even experts from the 6 Devil Halls at the peak of the Devil Mountain. Their gazes would occasionally turn to Wuxia from the immortal realms from the Chongqing the Great Alliance, causing the expressions of Qida and Nanfeng Ruoxuan to change unceasingly, extremely unsightly to behold. The atmosphere was extremely heavy. Clearly, these devil cultivators were all moved. Everyone, what do you all think? At this moment, a voice rang out on the Devil Mountain. This voice seemed somewhat ethereal. It was unknown where it originated from. The experts outside the Saint Devil Hall all inclined their heads. Who was the one who spoke? Since you obtained the inheritance, you naturally belong to the Devil Mountain. Let me ask you, are you willing to stay on the Devil Mountain? We can aid you in your cultivation, allowing you to grow stronger. In the future, you would have a chance to establish a Devil Hall of your own. An incomparably imposing voice rang out. Clearly, this question was directed at Huang Shatian. A terrifying expert from one of the Devil Halls was asking Huang Shatian a question. I won't. Maybe I will come to the Devil Mountain in the future, but for now, I won't stay here. I have to return to the immortal realms for cultivation. Huang Shatian calmly spoke, replying to that expert. The Judiciary Devil Hall seems to have rejected you. Another voice rang out. After that, everyone understood that the expert who spoke to Huang Shatian earlier was actually a powerful character from the Judiciary Devil Hall. Seems like the Judiciary Devil Hall truly followed the will of the myriad Devil Sovereign. Even if it was Wuxia from the immortal realms, they were still willing to acknowledge Huang Shatian's position as long as he stayed on the Devil Mountain to cultivate. Senior, please forgive me. Huang Shatian bowed slightly. You are saying that as long as we drive some people off the Devil Mountain, we would be able to leave the power we obtained here and leave? An expert asked. Yes. In addition, Junior can make an oath here that I will never impart this art to others, or I will die a horrible death. Huang Shatian swore. He knew how important this ability was to the Devil Mountain. Hence, it was necessary for him to express his stance. Nonsense. If you dare to impart this to others, even if you are the ruler of the 9 emperors' immortal state, you will still have to die. A tyrannical voice rang out, filled with an unquestionable intent, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. This was the tyranny and confidence of a peak-level expert of the Devil Mountain. Even if Huang Shatian returned to the immortal realms, it would be the same. Also, they already knew where Huang Shatian came from. Huang Shatian didn't suspect that Qin Wentian was boasting. The people of the Devil Mountain all believed in the myriad devil sovereign. If he really spread the devil inheritance he obtained in the sacred ground to the immortal realms, how could the Devil Mountain spare him? He naturally understood that if the Devil Mountain wanted to target his 9 emperors' immortal state, no matter how strong the 9 emperors' immortal state was, it wouldn't be enough. The Myriad Devil Islands was a place where immortal emperors were forbidden from entering. As for the Devil Mountain, it could represent the will of the Myriad Devil Islands. I have no objections. Judiciary, I believe as long as you nod your head, this matter wouldn't be difficult. An expert from the Myriad Devil sect spoke. I refuse. Since both of us are Wuxia who ascended the Devil Mountain, we have no qualifications to expel someone who passed the test. This would be blasphemy and disrespect to the Myriad Devil Sovereign. A powerful devil cultivator spoke. This voice originated from the direction of the Myriad Ancient Devil Hall. Humph. A cold snort rang out, as though he was filled with disdain towards the earlier voice. He then coldly spoke. The inheritance of the Devil Mountain is above everything else. Since a brand new inheritance has appeared, it naturally has to be above everything else. Rules are set by humans. Sometimes, some changes are meant to show respect to the Myriad Devil Sovereign. Ridiculous. You even dare to defy the will of the Myriad Devil Sovereign. How can you still talk about showing respect to the Myriad Devil Sovereign? An expert from the Myriad Ancient Devil Hall coldly snorted. Judiciary, you should express your stance now. At this moment, the Judiciary Devil Hall should have more authority. The final decision will be decided by you guys. A voice rang out. The outside of the Saint Devil Hall was completely silent. All the experts inclined their heads, quietly listening to this unmasked conversation. These devil cultivators were indeed devil cultivators, tyrannical and magnanimous, not hiding anything at all, saying whatever they wanted to say. The purpose of the Judiciary Hall is to obey the will of the Myriad Devil Sovereign. Expelling them clearly doesn't conform to the will of the Myriad Devil Sovereign. However, we have an even more important mission, which is to inherit the will of the Myriad Devil Sovereign, to protect the Devil Mountain and the Myriad Devil Islands forever. In that case, we have to strengthen ourselves. Hence, my judgment is to expel them from the Devil Mountain. Everything is for the sake of the Devil Mountain. Judiciary, your choice is correct. Another expert spoke. At this instant, the people on Huang Shaishan's side all laughed, while the experts on the Chongqing the Great side all had expressions of defeat on their faces. These supreme characters from the Devil Hall actually decided to expel them with just a few sentences? This was simply wanting their lives. The supreme characters of the Devil Mountain actually gave up on the will of the Myriad Devil Sovereign, and still want to lie to themselves? An unhappy voice rang out from the crowd. However, the other party didn't reply at all. A moment later, another voice rang out. You guys prepare yourselves and leave the Devil Mountain. I don't wish for the Devil Mountain to act. The decision made by these supreme characters was basically unquestionable. Since they have already decided to expel them from the Devil Mountain, there was no room for negotiation. Go down. A cold voice rang out, like a bolt of thunder from the clear skies, ringing in the ears of the experts from the Evergreen Alliance. If they left the Devil Mountain, it would be equivalent to doomsday. Chapter 13:10. Back then, the white-robed young man from the Apostle Devil Hall invited us to the Devil Mountain, but now, he was expelled and the will of the Myriad Devil Sovereign was ignored. As juniors of the immortal realms, we naturally have no way to defy the commands of the seniors of the Devil Mountain. It's just that I'm truly disappointed in the Devil Mountain. The people on the side of the Chongqing the Great knew that they had no way to resist the commands of the Devil Mountain. At this moment, the people who spoke were all major characters of the Devil Mountain. The decision they made, how could it be something these juniors of the immortal realms could change? Huang Shatian obtained the inheritance power of the Saint Devil Hall, causing the major characters of the Devil Mountain to appear. Hence, these major characters of the Devil Mountain wanted to go against the will of the Myriad Devil Sovereign and expel them. The Adjudication Hall has always upheld the will of the Myriad Devil Sovereign. But this time around, Isn't it a little too against the adjudication hall? An expert from the myriad ancient devil hall spoke, his tone filled with indignation for the immortal realms. I've already said it before. For the sake of the Devil Mountain becoming stronger, even if we have to go against the will of the myriad devil sovereign, our judiciary devil hall is willing to admit this stain on our reputation. The voice of the judiciary devil hall was filled with unquestionable determination. Still not going down the mountain? A domineering voice rang out from the direction of the heavenly devil hall. Wuxia from the Zhu immortal realms had a dim expression on his face, as his eyes gleamed with coldness. He exchanged glances with each other before he turned and headed down the mountain. This time around, Huang Shatian would definitely lead his troops to surround and kill them. Most probably, their situation would be extremely miserable. Huang Shatian stared at the figures of these experts. He stepped out as many experts from his side followed, preparing to descend the Devil Mountain as well. It was obvious that he wanted to end the judgment battle with this final blow. The experts on the side of Chongqing the Great moved very slowly. They walked down the mountain step by step. It was difficult to ascend the Devil Mountain, but it was easy to descend. Not only were there no obstructions, there was also no test of the Devil Mountain. Huang Shatian and the others followed behind him. All of them radiated an intense killing intent as their eyes flickered with coldness. Finally, they arrived at the stairway leading to the Devil Mountain. With a single glance, they could easily see the stairway and could casually walk down it. Step by step, they descended the Devil Mountain. Huang Shatian and the others followed behind them. Behind them, there were also some demonic cultivators following them. It seemed like they wanted to see what would happen, or perhaps they wanted to monitor the movements of these people. The peak of the Devil Mountain became silent once more. Wuxia felt his scalp turning numb. He stared into the Saint Devil Hall and cursed in a low voice. Why isn't that fellow out yet? Huang Shatian is a step ahead of us. This is going to be fatal. Wuxia knew how terrifying Huang Shatian was. That fellow was basically not someone he could deal with. Maybe other than Qin Wentian, no one else would be able to block Huang Shatian. This was especially so since Huang Shatian had just exited the Saint Devil Hall not long ago and obtained a powerful inheritance. He would only become even more terrifying than before. If he went to help, he would only be courting death. Senior brother, is there any way to help? Wuxia asked the expert from the myriad ancient devil hall beside him. That expert shook his head. The Judiciary Devil Hall has already given the order. 4 out of the 6 halls have expressed their stance, including the Judiciary Devil Hall and Darkness Devil Hall. There's basically no way to change the ending. If we interfere, it would be even more outrageous. There's no way at all? Wuxia asked. No, unless that friend of yours also obtained an inheritance and came out. Maybe, that might cause the major characters on the Devil Mountain to change their minds. That expert from the myriad ancient devil hall spoke. Fart, how can there be such a coincidence? The monk Wuxia cursed in a low voice. Things were going to be bad. If Qin Wentian's friends were all killed, and they were defeated in the adjudication battle, that fellow would surely go crazy. But just as Wuxia cursed, his eyes suddenly froze as he stared in astonishment at the figure walking out from the Saint Devil Hall. What a coincidence! Wuxia mumbled. At this moment, from the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain, a figure slowly walked out. If this figure wasn't Qin Wentian, who else could it be? Qin Wentian also saw Wuxia. When he saw the strange expression on Wuxia's face, he couldn't help but quicken his footsteps as he asked, "What's wrong?" "Quick, it's too late. Many of the friends of you and Huang Shatian who participated in the adjudication battle have already ascended the Devil Mountain. Just before you, Huang Shatian obtained the inheritance and walked out, using the method of handing over the inheritance to get the Devil Mountain to expel your friends. Huang Shatian and the others followed after him. If you immediately release the inheritance after obtaining it, you might still be able to change the minds of the Devil Mountain's Devil Hall." Wuxia hurriedly spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes instantly froze. A terrifying aura erupted forth from him as he stared at the expert from the myriad ancient Devil Hall. "Senior, can you bring me down the mountain immediately?" "Sure." That expert from the myriad ancient Devil Hall nodded lightly. After that, he grabbed Qin Wentian and stepped out with unbelievable speed. And at this moment, Huang Shatian and the others had already arrived at the foot of the Devil Mountain. The experts from both sides all released their terrifying auras. Huang Shatian took a step out as a terrifying divine weapon appeared behind him. A screen of light flashed in the air, unexcelled in this world. The experts from the Evergreen Alliance all took out their divine weapons. They knew that it was impossible for them to fight against Huang Shatian with their strength alone. They could only rely on their treasures. I advise you guys not to court death. Huang Shatian coldly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, the screen of light behind him grew even more resplendent as a supreme aura engulfed the area. Countless people at the foot of the Devil Mountain turned their gazes over as shock could be seen on their faces. These fellows who came down from the Devil Mountain actually started a battle here? What was going on? How powerful? The experts from the Evergreen Alliance turned ashen. The supreme treasure behind Huang Shatian was too terrifying, shaking the heavens and earth. Even the space seemed to be on the verge of shattering. That was a supreme treasure. This was the inheritance treasure of the 9 emperors' immortal state. Because Huang Shatian's compatibility with this supreme treasure was extremely high, he was able to obtain the inheritance power within. This was why the 9 emperors' immortal state bestowed him with the inheritance power of the founder of the 9 emperors' immortal state, as well as this supreme treasure. It was naturally terrifying. For this adjudication battle, our cultivation bases are about the same. Keep your divine weapons. I'll give you guys a chance to fight fairly and allow you all to die with dignity. Huang Shatian floated in the air as he coldly spoke. The expressions of the experts from the Evergreen Alliance kept changing. They knew that they had no way to defend against Huang Shatian's treasures. They could only keep their divine weapons one after another. For a supreme genius like Huang Shatian, there weren't many in the entire immortal realms. Now that he obtained the inheritance of the 9 emperors' immortal state and the Devil Mountain, it was unknown how terrifying he was now. Huang Shatian stretched his hand out as that terrifying pressure dissipated. He could retract his divine weapons as he willed it. The experts behind him also obeyed his command and kept their divine weapons. Although the adjudication battle depended on one's own methods, Huang Shatian was extremely confident and arrogant. He felt that there was no need for him to borrow the power of his divine weapons to obtain victory. The people from the Sky Mist Alliance all obeyed his command. Naturally, this was because Huang Shatian's absolute strength was there for all to see. If not, how would the disciples of the various peak powers here so easily obey him? Kill! Huang Shatian's palm slammed down. Instantly, numerous terrifying divine weapons shot out from the floating light screen behind him, slicing through the air as they shot towards Qin Wentian. Bang! Qida took a step forward as his aura erupted to the extreme. He unleashed his Battle Saint art, transforming into a powerful defensive screen of light that blasted outwards. When the countless divine weapons descended, rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly. Huang Shatian took a step forward as his aura grew even more terrifying. With a thunderous boom, the defensive screen was shattered as the divine weapons shot out. Behind Huang Shatian, the experts from the Evergreen Alliance also stepped out, launching their own attacks. In this vast space, an earth-shattering battle instantly erupted. Duan Qingshan and Namfeng Ruoxuan both rushed forward. The terrifying law energy radiating from Huang Shatian began to expand, enveloping this entire space. The law energy of the others wasn't as strong as his. They were all enveloped by him. He stood in the air, lofty, suppressing everything. Die! Only to see that at this moment, Huang Shatian lifted his palm. Instantly, boundless killing immortal light shot towards an expert. That expert used all his strength to defend, but the speed of that beam of light was too fast and seemed to be boundless. With a piercing sound, numerous divine weapons penetrated through, directly destroying the body of that expert. He died. Huang Shatian. In the air, a thunderous roar rang out. Huang Shatian inclined his head only to see Qin Wentian being flung over by a devil cultivator. Qin Wentian was like a bolt of black lightning. His gaze froze. He didn't expect Qin Wentian to appear at such a crucial moment. Seems like he had another opponent. Boom! In just an instant, a divine glow circulated around Qin Wentian, unexcelled in the world. He released his saint-grade immortal foundation as God's hand blasted out, aiming for the person closest to him. This palm contained the anger of Qin Wentian. That expert inclined his head and slashed out with a fearsome beam of light. However, the god's hand could destroy everything, shattering the void and blotting out the sun. With a thunderous boom, that expert was directly killed. Just a single strike. 9th level of immortal foundation. Many experts had looks of shock on their faces. When this fellow entered the myriad devil islands, he was only at the 7th level. How did he improve so quickly? He was actually already at the 9th level. This was simply terrifying. The White Tiger people and the experts from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom all had unsightly expressions on their faces. Qin Wentian's rate of improvement was a little too fast. When he was at the 7th level, he could already dominate everyone. Now that he stepped into the 9th level, he could insta-kill 9th level geniuses. Busy. Huang Shatian stretched out his finger and a moment later, countless divine weapons shot towards Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian only saw the gigantic shadow of a divine turtle protecting him. Terrifying ancient runes manifested as he stood within the light screen, resisting Huang Shaishan's attacks. Their gazes collided in the air as their battle intent soared. At this moment, Huang Shaishan's eyes narrowed as his expression turned unsightly to behold. Qin Wentian's growth was too fast. Although his improvements during these years were great, as long as he didn't break through to the immortal king realm, the gap between Qin Wentian and him would only grow smaller and smaller. He didn't expect that Qin Wentian would be able to break through to the 9th level so quickly. Chapter 1311. Qin Wentian has arrived. The experts from the Chongqing the Great Alliance heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Qin Wentian arriving. The pressure Huang Shatian gave them was too great. He could insta-kill geniuses. In their camp, other than Qin Wentian, there seemed to be no one else who could face Huang Shatian head-on. Before this, Huang Shatian only needed a single strike to kill an expert. But luckily, Qin Wentian arrived in time. His appearance instantly stabilized the hearts of everyone. Huang Shatian, your opponent is me. Huang Shatian stood arrogantly in the air as he coldly spoke. After hearing Bujia's words, he didn't beg for the experts from the Devil Mountain to retract their orders. Since they wanted to fight, he would fight then. This battle was unavoidable, and right now, Qin Wentian was confident that if he fought against Huang Shatian again, he would only win. Huang Shaishan's gaze when he stared at Qin Wentian was no longer filled with absolute confidence. Instead, it was heavy. He had already clashed with Qin Wentian twice, and each time, Qin Wentian would give him a pleasant surprise. This time, Qin Wentian, who had broken through to the 9th level, would only be stronger and harder to deal with. The light screen in the sky manifested as spatial laws enveloped the surroundings, engulfing all the divine weapons. Each and every divine weapon exuded a supreme divine glow, exuding an unexcelled sharpness that was extremely terrifying. You should know that this kind of attack is useless against me. Qin Wentian stared at Huang Shatian as he spoke arrogantly, only to see Huang Shatian pointing out with a finger as he spat out the word kill. In an instant, countless divine weapons shot out. Each beam of killing light transformed into a divine weapon that contained terrifying attack power. However, the light screen on Qin Wentian's body was extremely terrifying. It could be broken apart and reborn again. Then I'll let you experience it. Huang Shatian stretched out his hands. Instantly, a violent and sharp devil might engulfed the area, causing the entire space to tremble. At this moment, the other participants in combat were all drawn into this tempest. Numerous divine weapons seemed to have been demonized. All of them actually flew towards Huang Shatian, merging into the illusory killing light screen. Huang Shatian was like an invincible divine weapon. At this moment, there was only an extremely domineering sharpness. Let me see how strong your defense is. Huang Shatian coldly spoke. Countless devil attacks rained down on him. Each and every one of them was the sharpest and most tyrannical of divine weapons. Rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly. shattering the ancient characters and shattering the light screen as they shot towards Qin Wentian. An ancient halberd appeared in Qin Wentian's hand as a destructive might gushed forth. 8 demonic dragons revolved around him as he blasted out with his palms, activating the power of God's hand. At this moment, a terrifying vortex of killing manifested, devouring all incoming attacks. "Come here!" Huang Shatian roared. Qin Wentian only felt the ancient halberd in his hand trembling uncontrollably, as it was being demonized bit by bit. His eyes gleamed with a fearsome devilish light as a terrifying devil will gushed forth, expelling Qin Wentian's will. Huang Shaishan's countenance flashed. He folded hand seals as the devil might in the surroundings gushed towards him, fusing together with the illusory light screen behind him, growing even stronger. "Go," Huang Shatian pointed out with his finger. Killing intent filled the air as devil might gushed forth. This entire space transformed into a scene of doomsday as countless devil weapons rushed towards Qin Wentian, tyrannical to the extreme. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky. All of a sudden, a terrifying devil might gushed forth from him, churning unceasingly. His eyes radiated a tyrannical devil will, like the will of the king of the Devil Islands. "Ha!" Qin Wentian let out a thunderous roar, shaking the heavens and earth. Devil might gushed forth, churning unceasingly. After that, Qin Wentian lifted his palm and blasted it outwards. In an instant, a scene of destruction appeared in this space. The churning devil might seem to have turned chaotic, and was completely enveloped by a gigantic palm imprint. After that, they were all destroyed, causing the entire space to explode as chaotic currents of energy gushed forth in all directions. The two of them are so terrifying. More and more experts paid attention to this battle, including the countless pilgrims at the foot of the Devil Mountain. Before this, many people were already curious about why there would be an internal battle between the experts who came down from the Devil Mountain. After that, they discovered that many of these people were actually from the immortal realms, Wuxia. Up until now, the strength of the two combatants had already reached such an extent, simply shocking the heavens and earth, reaching the peak of their cultivation realm. When the destructive might dissipated, Huang Shatian and Qin Wentian both stopped and stared at each other. Huang Shaishan's eyes were filled with heaviness, while Qin Wentian's eyes were filled with coldness. In the past, he needed to use the power of his bloodline and devilization before he could fight against Huang Shatian in his strongest state. But now, just by relying on his cultivation base, he could already fight against Huang Shatian without losing out. If he used the power of his bloodline, he would instantly gain an absolute advantage. Since he thought of this point, Huang Shatian naturally thought of it as well. This was why his expression was so heavy. After fighting against Qin Wentian 3 times, Qin Wentian grew stronger and stronger each time. This time around, after exiting the inheritance ground of the Saint Devil Hall, Huang Shatian should have been even more terrifying. But this was the first time he didn't have the confidence to win against Qin Wentian. Huang Shatian folded his hands and at this moment, 9 ancient human emperors appeared. The shadow of the human emperors descended upon him, fusing together with him. At this instant, Huang Shatian seemed to have transformed into a human emperor. The light screen behind him shone with a dazzling brilliance as countless divine weapons fused into one, merging into Huang Shatian. At this moment, his body had become a divine weapon. Biz. From Huang Shaishan's body, an ancient human emperor sword radiating devilish might manifested. The heavens and earth split apart as the void shattered. This sword slashed down, wanting to destroy everything. Boom! A supreme might erupted forth from Qin Wentian. His entire body radiated a towering devilish might as he transformed into a devil. He inclined his head, causing the heavens and earth to change. A supreme devilish might gushed forth, causing the speed at which the heaven-opening sword slashed down to slow down. God's hand blasted out. The 8 demons shook the heavens and earth as a vortex enveloped the heavens and earth, wanting to devour the ancient human emperor sword. However, Huang Shatian didn't seem to have heard it. Boundless energy gathered around him as devil might churned unceasingly. The entire space was filled with an extreme sharpness, and the energy that flowed into his body gradually transformed him into a devil god weapon. In the next instant, Huang Shaishan's silhouette directly vanished from sight. A whistling sound filled the air. Only a supreme devil might and a sharp killing intent could be seen. A beam of destructive light shot through the air, shuttling through the void. Qi. A beam of devilish might descended before Qin Wentian, directly annihilating all existences. An overwhelming sense of danger suddenly descended. If this attack landed, it would be sufficient to kill Qin Wentian. The devil-transformed Qin Wentian exuded a towering devil might. His eyes were deep and black, and at the instant he sensed danger, a supreme will manifested. The will of all the devils in the world seemed to fuse into one as the faint shadow of a supreme devil king manifested. He stared at the incomparably sharp killing sword, as though it was impossible for him to block this attack. He then spat out a single word. Stop? This sword strike that could cleave apart the heavens and earth actually froze for an instant. The energy contained within this strike was actually being absorbed by the devilized Qin Wentian, flowing towards the devilized Qin Wentian. Die. Huang Shaishan's silhouette drifted over from the void. That attack was none other than Huang Shatian himself. He had already transformed into this supreme devil divine weapon. Stop. Qin Wentian roared once more, akin to the rage of a devil king. He lifted his hand and pointed a finger forward. With this finger, boundless devil might seem to transform into the same attack, blasting towards that all-annihilating attack. Even time seemed to slow down. At this moment, Qin Wentian was like a supreme devil king. The power of God's hand frenziedly gushed forth. He lifted his palm and the 8 demonic beasts howled in rage, transforming into a terrifying vortex that could devour the heavens and earth. The devil might contained within the vortex blasted out, wanting to destroy everything. Rumble, the two attacks collided together, causing explosions to unceasingly appear in the air. The attack that was shooting towards Qin Wentian was flung away, landing on the ground and actually transformed into a figure. It was none other than the figure of Huang Shatian. Pooh! A mouthful of fresh blood was coughed out. Huang Shaishan's countenance was as pale as paper. His aura fluctuated intensely, but what was even more intense was the fluctuations in his heart. Defeated. He, Huang Shatian, after the first battle in Tiandao Sacred Academy, returned to the 9 Emperors' immortal state to inherit the supreme ultimate art of the Fallen Devil Island, and fought against Qin Wentian for the second time on the Fallen Devil Island. The battle ended in a draw again. This was the third battle and he, Huang Shatian, was defeated. He was truly defeated. He was defeated head-on. Also, this was after he obtained the inheritance of the Devil Mountain. When the two alliances saw the ending of this battle, their hearts couldn't calm down. That fellow actually defeated Huang Shatian. In that case, who else in the alliance of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom would be able to contend against him? Ding ding. At this moment, the sound of bells ringing rang out as a fearsome baleful aura engulfed the area. Qin Wentian abruptly turned his head, only to see an expert of the White Tiger people taking out a divine weapon and launching an attack at him. The baleful aura of a white tiger rushed over. He instantly took out the demon sword and with a wave of his hand, the demon sword transformed into a gigantic sword that was over 1,000 meters long. The silhouette of a great rock appeared, wanting to destroy everything, blocking in front of him. Kill him. That White Tiger people coldly spoke. If Huang Shatian died, the consequences would be unimaginable. Right now, they could only use their divine weapons to join forces and kill Qin Wentian. Huang Shatian stood up. His dim eyes flashed with determination. Since he was already defeated, he could only eliminate Qin Wentian to prevent any future troubles. At this instant, a light screen 10,000 meters wide appeared as the sky changed color. From Huang Shatian, a supreme treasure light gushed forth, capable of annihilating everything. A dazzling brilliance shot out, so dazzling that no one could open their eyes. In that light screen, a peerless Renhuang covered in endless golden celestial light appeared. He was clad in golden armor, and held a peerless sword in his hand. Chapter 13:12. How powerful! Great waves of shock rose in the hearts of everyone. Before this, they already felt how terrifying Huang Shaishan's divine weapon was. At this moment, when Huang Shaishan's divine weapon unleashed its might, everyone could clearly feel how terrifying it was. The light caused them to feel a piercing pain in their eyes. When they opened their eyes, they only saw that supreme human emperor wielding a sword that could split heaven and earth apart. A screen of light enveloped this entire space. Everything was under the attack of this divine weapon. Huang Shaishan's will seemed to have fused into the body of the supreme human emperor. His entire body was bathed in the supreme emperor light. Huang Shatian obtained the inheritance of the 9 emperors' immortal state. Among them, this supreme divine weapon was included, an emperor-ranked weapon. The stronger he was, the more terrifying the might of this divine weapon would be. If it was controlled by an immortal emperor, it would truly have the power to split heaven and earth apart. This was a divine weapon used by the founding emperor of the 9 emperors' immortal state, yet it was given to Huang Shatian to use. From this, one could very well imagine how much hope the 9 emperors' immortal state had for Huang Shatian. Clearly, as one of the strongest geniuses of this generation in the immortal realms, Huang Shatian was also one of the most outstanding geniuses in the 9 emperors' immortal state. The empire was nurturing him as the future human emperor. On the Devil Mountain, many devil wills enveloped this space. Even those powerful devil cultivators felt their hearts shaking, sighing at how unexcelled this divine weapon was. Qin Wentian had a heavy expression on his face. Before this, in the sky suspending battlefield in the fallen devil region, he already knew that Huang Shatian had a supreme divine weapon on him. This was the first time Huang Shatian took out this divine weapon. As expected, it was extremely powerful. Busy. A bright light flashed as a treasured cauldron appeared before Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian placed his palm on the surface of the cauldron and instantly, a terrifying demonic might radiated from the cauldron. Boundless light radiated forth as numerous terrifying greater demons surged forth, surrounding the cauldron, covering the sacred luminance within. At the same time, Qin Wentian waved his hand. Instantly, the demon sword transformed into an incomparably gigantic sword. Boundless sword light cascaded downwards, enveloping this entire space. The shadow of a great rock appeared as a screen of sword light blocked everything, isolating immortal and devil senses from prying into it. He would never allow others to see this treasure of his, nor would he allow others to discover the existence of the sacred luminance. Even if he unleashed the might of the treasured cauldron during his battle with Huang Shatian, he would still be able to see what these 2 treasures were. However, he couldn't completely expose them in front of the Devil Mountain. Those powerful devil cultivators on the Devil Mountain weren't trustworthy people. As expected, you also have a powerful treasure. Huang Shatian stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. You have already lost. Since you have lost, you guys should just admit defeat for this adjudication battle. Qin Wentian spoke to Huang Shatian. My defeat doesn't mean that I have lost the adjudication battle. As long as there's a chance, I will still use all my methods to reverse the situation. If I can kill you, I will definitely do so even if I feel regret after killing you. Huang Shatian coldly spoke. The light from his emperor-ranked weapon engulfed the area, causing the people outside the screen of sword light to retreat frantically. The 2 of them also understood that if they really used such powerful divine weapons to fight to their heart's content, everyone here would die. This wasn't the ending they wanted. Not only were the experts from their side retreating, even the experts from the surroundings of the Devil Mountain were retreating as well. Their hearts trembled. They didn't expect such a heaven-shaking battle to erupt among these people who came down from the Devil Mountain. Whether it was their strength or their divine weapons, both of them had reached a frightening level. Demon sword, seal this place. Qin Wentian spoke. The demon sword expanded once more, transforming into an incomparably terrifying gigantic sword. Sword might cascaded downwards, enveloping this entire space. It was as though the silhouette of a great rock was enveloping this entire space. That unceasing flow of light was extremely resplendent. Since the immortal realms already have me, Huang Shatian, why would they still need you, Qin Wentian, to exist? Huang Shatian stared at Qin Wentian. The killing intent in his eyes was incomparably sharp. He pointed his finger forward and in that instant the sky changed color. Countless Supreme Emperor-ranked divine weapons blotted out the sky, enveloping this entire space as they shot towards Qin Wentian, wanting to engulf everything. Huang Shaishan's voice had a hint of sorrow in it, as well as a trace of desolation, the desolation of defeat. Naturally, there was also an intense determination in his heart. He wanted Qin Wentian to die. Since the immortal realms already had him, Huang Shatian, there was no need for Qin Wentian. With Qin Wentian, how could there still be a place for him, Huang Shatian? It was rumored that the Tiandao Sacred Academy was a place that produced ancient emperors. If there was only one of them, there would only be one among the two of them. Qin Wentian's palms slammed down towards the cauldron. At this instant, 8 towering greater demons revolved around Qin Wentian. Each of the greater demons transformed into a terrifying 10,000-meter-long body, enveloping this entire space. The spectators far away had already retreated to an extremely far distance. But the moment they inclined their heads, they could see the gigantic shadow of the greater demons as well as the countless divine weapons. The countless divine weapons destroyed everything, injuring and shattering the greater demons one after another. However, Qin Wentian's palms blasted out again. The 8 greater demons transformed into a terrifying vortex that swept forward, wanting to devour everything. Even the heavens and earth were about to be sucked into this terrifying vortex. Although the space where the two of them fought in was extremely vast, it was still somewhat small when compared to the scene of their battle. That terrifying vortex instantly enveloped the entire space, wanting to devour Huang Shatian and the supreme divine weapons. Only to see Huang Shatian inclined his head, his eyes were cold. He transformed into the human emperor and stretched his hand out, placing it on the hilt of his sword. As he drew it out, a supreme might gushed forth, shaking the heavens and earth. As the sword slashed out, the heavens and earth trembled as the void shattered. Every strand of aura radiating from it was akin to a supreme divine weapon, capable of annihilating everything. This simple action was akin to millions upon millions of divine weapons attacking each other. Terrifying cracks appeared within the vortex, but they were swiftly healed as the vortex continued to devour everything. Countless demonic shadows appeared from within, wanting to devour Huang Shatian. However, at this moment, Huang Shatian was actually extremely calm. He knew what he had in his hands. If even this divine weapon was defeated, only death awaited him. For a character like him, when facing such a battle, he didn't view death at all. He pursued the strongest cultivation base. And in this process, if he was defeated again and again, even if he died, it was only natural. Qin Wentian stared at the fearsome tremors. Back then when he killed the Devil King, such a terrifying scene didn't appear. The all-devouring vortex was actually riddled with cracks, riddled with holes. Peak-level Immortal Foundation experts basically had no way to control such a divine weapon. They could only unleash a small portion of its might, but it was already so terrifying. Slashing out with his sword, Huang Shaishan's body shone with golden light as a supreme armor appeared around him. With a slash of the human emperor sword, the cracks in the vortex frenziedly connected, containing a supreme spatial energy within. After which, the terrifying vortex was torn apart and finally, a terrifying explosion rang out as the devouring vortex collapsed. Huang Shatian didn't hesitate to slash out with his sword again. As this sword slashed out, cracks appeared in the space around him as boundless energy gushed towards him. Qin Wentian stood within the cauldron as boundless light circulated around him. His bloodline was activated as he transformed into a descendant of a demon god, unleashing a supreme might. Demonic dragons roared, primordial chaos devoured the sky, great rocks tore apart everything, and divine elephants suppressed the void. Boundless attacks, boundless energy, all collided frenziedly in the air, creating a scene of destruction. Since I'm already defeated, even if I borrow the power of a divine weapon, I will still be defeated. Qin Wentian roared. He actually advanced together with the treasured cauldron. The 8 greater demons opened their mouths as the destructive vortex devoured everything, rushing towards Huang Shatian. Huang Shatian didn't say anything. He was the same as Qin Wentian. It was too taxing for him to control such a divine weapon. Even though his affinity with the weapon was already considered perfect, unless he broke through to the immortal Emperor realm one day, it would be impossible for him to truly control this supreme divine weapon. What he could control was only the power of his own energy. This was the iron law of cultivation. All divine weapons had to be controlled by stellar martial cultivators. Huang Shaishan's law energy frenziedly gushed into the human emperor sword. Space attributed, sword attributed, metal attributed and other supreme offensive attributes were all unleashed. Another sword slashed out. This time, it didn't aim at the vortex, nor did it aim at those greater demons. Instead, it shot towards Qin Wentian, who was in the treasured cauldron. He wanted to kill Qin Wentian. As long as Qin Wentian died, the person controlling the divine weapon would die. At that time, no matter how strong the divine weapon was, it would be useless. How could Qin Wentian allow Huang Shatian to succeed? The reason why his body was still in the treasured cauldron was because Huang Shaishan's attacks were too terrifying, able to penetrate through space. He naturally had to be on guard. Boom! Another thunderous sound rang out. The runic inscriptions in the treasured cauldron surged unceasingly, revolving to their limits. Wave after wave of attacks ferociously shot out, blocking the human emperor sword. The sky grew dimmer and dimmer. The vortex grew stronger and stronger, enveloping Huang Shatian and the Supreme Emperor sword within it, wanting to trap him within, causing him to be unable to extricate himself. Huang Shatian suddenly sighed when he saw Qin Wentian being protected by the treasured cauldron. Even his strongest divine weapon was unable to break through the defense of the cauldron, and when he glanced at the vortex of destruction, Huang Shatian suddenly sighed. This sigh seemed to penetrate through time and space. He, Huang Shatian, from a young age, grew to have unparalleled talent and was doted on by everyone. He himself was also someone who constantly strived to improve himself and never fell behind his peers. He stood out from the masses and was the one with the highest talent among the younger generation of the 9 emperors' immortal state. He was invincible and was extremely famous even in the central regions of the immortal realms. In the Tiandao Sacred Academy, he was also incomparably glorious. All the way until he met Qin Wentian. Not being able to kill Qin Wentian in the first battle seemed to be the greatest mistake of Huang Shatian. That battle was also the best opportunity for him to kill Qin Wentian. Sadly, he was too careless and missed that battle. After that, he actually couldn't kill Qin Wentian anymore. But now he actually suffered a crushing defeat. Since the immortal realms already had Huang Shatian, why was there still a need for Qin Wentian? Even now he was filled with reluctance in his heart. Chapter 13:13. A sense of sorrow radiated from Huang Shatian. Death wasn't something to be afraid of, it was just reluctance in his heart. He had always believed that he would have the accomplishments of an ancient emperor, establishing a new era, becoming the king of this era. This was his goal, his conviction. But now there was actually a character on the same level as him who could suppress him. Qin Wentian could also sense the sorrow radiating from Huang Shatian. From a certain perspective, Huang Shatian was indeed an opponent worthy of respect. Disregarding all standpoints, only strength mattered. However, since they were born in the same era and became enemies, if they could kill each other, one of them would have to die. If he didn't die, it would be Huang Shatian. There was no need to doubt this point. Hence, Qin Wentian's killing intent didn't weaken in the slightest. He continued his frenzied slaughter. The spectators outside had no way to see the battle clearly. 2 peak-level Immortal Foundation experts with supreme divine weapons in their hands. Their strength has already exceeded the limits of Immortal Foundation and Devil Foundation experts. In fact, even ordinary Devil Kings would be slain by them. Just the radius of their attacks already covered an extremely terrifying area. Enough! At this moment, a thunderous voice thundered through the air. The spectators all felt their bodies trembling violently, after which, they only saw an incomparably gigantic palm imprint of darkness stretching over. This palm blotted out the sun, directly penetrating through the screen of swords, right in the middle of the 2 attacks, cutting off everything in its path. This sky-blotting palm was extremely terrifying. Devil might gushed forth, and with a sudden clench, all the attacks were instantly destroyed. The terrifying energy fluctuations caused Qin Wentian and Huang Shatian to retreat. With a flash of light, Qin Wentian directly kept his treasured cauldron, not wanting to expose it before his opponent. Inclining his head, he stared at the sky. His expression was extremely cold, exuding an icy intent. Evidently, there was an expert on the Devil Mountain who forcefully interfered in the battle between him and Huang Shatian. All of you go up the Devil Mountain. Qin Wentian's eyes were extremely cold. He coldly spoke. Since the Devil Mountain refused to protect my friends and expelled them from the Devil Mountain, this is already going against the will of the myriad Devil Sovereign. Right now, since we are fighting to settle our grudges, Senior is forcefully interfering. I don't understand what you mean by this. The gazes of everyone turned to Qin Wentian, silently musing at how audacious this fellow was. He was a true heaven's chosen, and their guts were also extraordinary. He actually dared to question the experts of the Devil Mountain. Then are you going up or not? The voice of the expert sounded again. He didn't respond to Qin Wentian's words at all. He was still as domineering as ever. Qin Wentian's eyes were extremely cold. Should he go or not? He was already at the foot of the Devil Mountain. How terrifying was the Devil Mountain? If they wanted to destroy him, it would be as easy as flipping their palms. In addition, Bai Qing was currently on the Devil Mountain as well. He still had to ascend the mountain. Qin Wentian basically had no choice. Since he had no choice, Qin Wentian only coldly laughed and didn't say anything else. He walked towards the direction of the Devil Mountain, extremely decisive. In fact, he didn't even glance at Huang Shatian. Clearly, the Devil Mountain wanted to interfere. This time around, it was impossible for him to kill Huang Shatian. Everyone stared at his back, trying to guess what Qin Wentian was thinking. The people from Qin Wentian's alliance followed after Qin Wentian. Their expressions were all extremely unsightly. Qin Wentian's tone clearly indicated that he had the upper hand in the earlier battle. If the battle continued, there was a high possibility that victory or defeat would be decided. At this moment, the expert who expelled them from the Devil Mountain interfered, and even wanted them to ascend the Devil Mountain. They were naturally unhappy. Huang Shatian still stood there with a complicated look on his face, filled with disappointment and disappointment. The people from his alliance stared at Huang Shatian. Their hearts were also filled with complicated emotions. From a certain perspective, this adjudication battle was also a battle between Huang Shatian and Qin Wentian. The two of them were simply too powerful, a level higher compared to the others. They were the kings of their respective cultivation realms. Their victory or defeat would directly determine the outcome of the adjudication battle. And Huang Shatian, who had always been unexcelled in the world, was actually defeated today. Qin Wentian and the others once again walked up the stairway leading to the Devil Mountain. There was a clear path ahead. There were no longer any obstructions. Their silhouettes flashed. Their speed was extremely fast as they ascended the Devil Mountain. In the vast space outside the Saint Devil Hall, Qin Wentian and the others descended once again. Those people from Qin Wentian's alliance who were expelled from the Devil Mountain all returned. The eyes of many devil cultivators flashed as the experts from the various devil halls all gathered here. Qin Wentian was the same as Huang Shatian. He exited the Saint Devil Hall after Huang Shatian. In addition, he managed to rush down the mountain in time and brought his friends back. You obtained an inheritance in the sacred ground. An ethereal voice drifted over. Clearly, another expert from the Devil Halls spoke. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared up in the air as he coldly laughed in his heart. Senior, are you interrogating a criminal? Or could it be that the Devil Mountain has never truly respected the will of the myriad Devil Sovereign? It has always been a lie, wanting to plunder the inheritance of the myriad Devil Sovereign? Impudent. A cold voice rang out, exuding a supreme might, directly descending from the sky, landing on Qin Wentian, terrifying to the extreme. Qin Wentian suddenly laughed uproariously. His laughter was extremely impudent as he stated, "Did I say something wrong? My friends were all invited here by the apostles of the Devil Mountain, And they all passed the test of the myriad devil sovereign. They followed the will of the myriad devil sovereign and came to the Devil Mountain. However, because Huang Shatian obtained the inheritance, and because the various devil halls coveted the inheritance on him, they went against the will of the myriad devil sovereign and expelled my friends from the Devil Mountain. Is this the respect they have for the myriad devil sovereign? As for me, I exited the sacred ground and was questioned. I bathed in the radiance of the myriad devil sovereign and now I'm being interrogated like a criminal. Is this the attitude the devil halls of the Devil Mountain have towards the inheritors of the myriad devil sovereign? Let me ask you, is there really anyone on the Devil Mountain who respects the myriad devil sovereign? Qin Wentian roared, extremely audacious. Sometimes one needs to be a little more impudent. If you endure, the other party will take a step further, leaving you with no path of retreat. As the sound of his voice rang out, the gazes of countless devil cultivators turned to Qin Wentian. However, the voice in the air suddenly turned silent. The Judiciary Devil Hall is the protector of the will of the myriad devil sovereign, controlling order and ruling everything. Now, is this what you mean by protecting the will of the myriad devil sovereign? Qin Wentian continued. Even if you obtain the inheritance of one of the devil halls, you don't have the qualifications to be so arrogant. You are ultimately just a junior who ascended the Devil Mountain. Even if I really kill you, would the myriad devil sovereign blame me? A cold voice rang out, originating from the darkness devil hall. I left a strand of my immortal sense in the immortal realms. If the Devil Mountain wants to kill me, this means that the devil halls on the Devil Mountain are the true traitors, going against the will of the myriad devil sovereign. I naturally have to protect the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign from falling into the hands of the traitors. I will spread the inheritance to every corner of the immortal realms, letting the immortal realms come and kill the traitors. Qin Wentian's voice was cold and domineering. Impudent. How dare you? Numerous cold voices rang out at the same time. If we kill you now, your immortal sense would dissipate. You are courting death. Qin Wentian's arrogant words clearly angered these major characters. Several of them spoke at the same time. Is that so? How do you all know that I don't have an avatar? There are many avatar techniques in the immortal realms, and some of the more powerful ones can survive even if the true body dies. It's extremely easy to kill me. However, do you all know which devil hall's inheritance I obtained? If the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign is spread throughout the immortal realms, what would happen? Would the Devil Mountain still be the Devil Mountain? Qin Wentian roared, as though he wasn't afraid of death. As the sound of his voice rang out, the hearts of the major characters from the Devil Mountain trembled. You dare to threaten the Devil Mountain? Wanting to spread the inheritance of our Devil Mountain? A cold voice rang out once more. What a joke. The devil halls on the Devil Mountain are already prepared to betray the will of the myriad devil sovereign time and time again. What face do you all have to say that the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign belongs to you all? It should be whoever obtained the inheritance would be the true inheritor of the will of the myriad devil sovereign. In that case, let me ask you, are you willing to stay on the Devil Mountain to cultivate? Another voice rang out. But this time around, there seemed to be some compromise. I'm not willing, Qin Wentian directly replied. Since you aren't willing to stay on the Devil Mountain to cultivate, tell us what inheritance you obtained exactly. Another voice rang out. Or do you want to plunder? I obtained the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign. Is there a need for me to tell you? All the devil halls on the Devil Mountain are already above the will of the myriad devil sovereign. Qin Wentian laughed. What do you want then? They didn't expect a junior to be so difficult to deal with. How audacious. He actually dared to openly challenge the prestige of the devil halls, completely lawless. I can't even see him. I want to ask everyone. What do you all want to do to me? It's not what I want to do. Qin Wentian quietly stood there. No matter what the other party said, he wouldn't budge. If he gave in so easily, he might not even be able to leave the Devil Mountain alive. Silence filled the air. This Qin Wentian was brazen and brazen, unmoved by force or persuasion. The cold eyes of those devil cultivators all stared at Qin Wentian. This was the first time someone dared to challenge the prestige of the Devil Mountain. Also, this person was just a junior. Qin Wentian directly closed his eyes. Since they chose to remain silent, let them remain silent then. Devil might fluctuated in the air. After that, several experts appeared in the air. They soared through the air, like unexcelled hegemons. Every step they took contained an unexcelled might as they walked towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian still had his eyes closed. He knew that these people have arrived. His purpose was to make them come out. These experts descended, standing in the region where Qin Wentian was at. After that, Wuxia from the devil sects all bowed. Clearly, the statuses of these people were extraordinary. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.